To be clear, I don't have COVID. What's up, everyone? I think you can probably hear it in my voice. I'm still a little sick. It's like a little husky. It's because I've been sick for 9 days. Here, let me recount my symptoms for you guys before we get into... first of all, hello, it's good to see everyone. I haven't streamed in 2 weeks. I've missed you guys. Are you doing okay? I hope everyone's happier and healthier than I am, but y'all coming in here like I'm also sick, so maybe you're not so healthy. So I'm sorry if that's the case. Ying jump scare. We missed you too. I'm happy that you missed me, but I'm sorry that I put you through that. For those of you who missed it, I went to New York City for a long weekend, basically, for the Genshin concert, and then I came back with something, and then I took a PCR test on Monday because for some reason by day 5 I was still sick, and I was like, this is weird. I didn't think it was COVID because it wasn't COVID symptoms, but I got PCR just in case, and they tested for COVID and flu, and it's negative across the board. And then I was like, can you test for RSV too? And they're like, you need special permission from your doctor to get an RSV test. And I was like, fuck you, Kaiser. So anyway, I don't know, it might be RSV. My symptoms are kind of nasty. Not that bad, but kind of. Anyway, thank you, Grimsy. Happy 30 months, Grimsy. Holy shit. And Remy B, happy 14 months. Thank you both. I appreciate the resub. Twin sister of Twice, Jihyo. I don't follow Twice that closely, but I will take that as a compliment because all those K-pop girlies are beautiful. Welcome to y'all tabs. Welcome to chat. Post New York sickness. Nope, none of those motherfuckers were masked. I was standing there like I always mask on the subway, right? I always mask on an Uber ride. But the thing is, like, we went to a lot of like restaurants, and like you can't mask at a restaurant, So. That, and also we lost a lot of sleep. Like, I don't know if anyone here has flown like west to east coast in the United States of America before, but usually you do that. A lot of people prefer to do that red eye, so you don't lose a whole day, which means you fly overnight, which means you lose a night of sleep. So I think the sleep deprivation might have done me in, but as you can tell, my energy is mostly back, mostly functional. Eating through the mask, delicious. Okay, the number of times I've gone to get boba with my friends while masked, and then I tried to drink out of the boba straw. And then it taps my mask, and I'm like, oh, right. The number of times I've done this, I've lost count at this point. Mask and IV at the restaurant. You will be getting today's nutritional intake through an intravenous tube. Cloudy skies, hello. Welcome to chat. Good to have you. Outdoor in the winter. Yeah, well, okay, so that's the thing. I actually think that might have been part of why I got sick, is because we sat outdoors a lot in New York City in the winter during one of their coldest weeks, like in history, I think. That didn't go that great. There was one time, in fact, where I was out there for like, I think an hour and a half. We were actually meeting up with Sash, if you guys know Sash, one of our regulars here. We were meeting up with Sash, and there was no seating inside the cafe, so we sat outside for like an hour and a half with no heating. Like, what in the world? I don't know why we did that. We were like, oh, this door closes. It was, those like the sidewalk, like lean-to shacks that they build around like some tables, and there was like a sliding door. We all like filed in and closed the sliding door. We were like, well, there's no wind chill. In retrospect, dumbass behavior. But at the time we were like, oh, we're bundled up. We got some hot food in front of us. It's fine. We'll be fine. That might have been what did me in. But again, I don't know for sure. It was some combination of like being really cold, walking around in the wind and the cold a lot, not sleeping enough, being in crowded places, right? But I'm glad it's not COVID again, because that would suck, because I just got COVID in September. And then I'm glad also that it's not the flu. But to describe my symptoms for you all, in case you experienced the same thing, it was really weird for me. On the day we were flying back, like as I was boarding my very delayed, 4-hour delayed plane home, I had a sore throat, and I was like, So I, obviously, because I was like, that sore throat seems a little suspicious. I was well masked for the plane ride, don't worry. But over the course of the plane ride, which is like 7 hours coming back to the West Coast, my sore throat developed into also like a tension headache. and then like body soreness. But then, you know, you're like travel weary also, and you've been waiting 4 hours at an airport because it was delayed. So I'm kind of like, you know, I could be sick or I could just be tired from travel. So I couldn't really tell. It wasn't until the next day when I woke up and I was like, definitely have a fever. So I took 2 days off work, had a low fever that whole time. It went away day 3, at which point I developed sinus issues, like a stuffed/runny nose and a dry cough. The dry cough and runny nose kind of went away by day 4. So I thought I was good. And then the cough intensified on day 5, as did the sinus issues. So I was like there was like a gotcha, like one day where I was like feeling okay and then bad again after. So anyway, it's not great. It wasn't great, but it also like wasn't horrible. Like I've been working for the most part. It's fine. C1 Shinobi, thank you for the prime resub. Happy 13 months. 13 months. Y'all stay awake on plane rides for longer than 3 hours and amaze me. I pass out after 4. I'm amazed by people who can sleep on planes, because I can't sleep on transportation. Like I can't sleep on like trains, planes, boats, none of that. I just can't sleep if I'm in transit. Thank you. I'm glad I'm feeling mostly better too. I would say I'm at like 80%. Mostly today I was just grateful that I woke up and I was like, I can breathe through my nose again. That's a good feeling. It's a very, very, very good feeling. You never really appreciate the basics of life, such as breathing through your nose. But since I was sick, it gave me an excuse to like not be productive for a while. I mean, I showed up to my day job, like bare minimum, and that was about it. But every day since Monday, every day after work, I've been, or Sunday? Yeah, since Sunday, I've been playing. I finally started Octopath Traveler 2. I remember discussing it with you guys whether we should stream it or not. And then everybody was like, ooh, it's a long game. Like, don't stream it. So, guys, it's so good. Play Octopath Traveler 2. It's so good. It's so good. It's so fucking good. If you were an Octopath Traveler 1 fan, and you, like most Octopath Traveler 1 fans, had some critiques about the first game, you know, they were like, it was very well done, but there were some flaws. They fixed like virtually every flaw in the second game. It's so fucking good. And the character writing is so good, and the story writing is so good. I've been crying since chapter 1. Like, it's crazy. Highly recommend. I know. Imagine being a mouth breather. That really sucked for like a whole week. This is a pretty good week in terms of timing to be a slacker, though. You're right, Renminbi. I was like, global strike? I'm forced to do that because I'm sick. Oh my god. Who's your favorite main and why is it Oswald? Oswald is good. Oswald is good from a combat perspective, but I was so Tressa was my favorite in the first game. And so this game, when I started it, I was like, I really like the vibes that Tressa brought as protagonist. Because if you haven't played the game, Octopath Traveler, as implied by the name, there's 8 characters that you play through and 8 stories. Each of them has a story. And the one that you choose at first is your protagonist, and they stay with your party for the duration of the game. You like cannot shift them out of your party. So I knew whoever I chose I was going to be committed to, and I wanted less from a combat perspective, but more from a story perspective for that person to have the kinds of themes that would unite all of everyone else's themes. So I looked for the one that was most Tressa coded, which in this case, in my opinion, is Agnia. So I grabbed Agnia first, and I do not regret that decision at all. The one thing that's kind of annoying is like having a dancer hard stuck on your team for a while, because dancer's not exactly the most combat flexible class, but I'm making it work. I think I've subclassed her to like every single other job at this point already. They're not traveling in an octopus. Well, they've made a lot of octopus jokes this time. There's like a town that I just showed up in for everybody's part 2, I want to say, where they kept making seafood jokes, and a lot of people were talking about octopodes. Octopi? I don't know. The first letters of the character's name spell Octopath. That's correct. Yeah. So this kind of time it would be what? Oswald. Who's the C? I don't even know their. I don't know them well enough yet. Octopath 2 characters. Oswald. Oh, Casti. T would be Temenos. Is hilarious. That man is so fucking funny. Also, he's voiced by Ishida Akira. He motherfucker opened his mouth and I was like, I know you. And then I like looked it up and it was Ishida Akira. And then the other one that did that to me was I was playing Hikari's route. Hikari's the warrior. Very like Japan themed samurai type. Well, not samurai, like prince of a Japanese themed nation type. He has a friend who opened his mouth and I was like, I know you. And then I looked him up and it was, his name was Kazan. Kazan's voice actor is Gintoki's voice actor. And then Particio opened his mouth and I looked it up. It was fucking, it's like Zoro One Piece, you know? It's great. Biku, hello. Did Mika raid me? Yes, Mika did. I was in loading screen though, so I wasn't able to properly thank Mika. Anyway, lots of great voice actors. I played the first game in English, actually. So the second game, I switched to Japanese. After I heard Agnea's voice in both English and Japanese, I chose her Japanese one, and then I just stuck with Japanese from there. So, yeah. Anyway, we got kind of sidetracked. Lots of stuff planned for today's stream. Not that much, to be fair. It's a guerrilla stream today. But the one thing I definitely wanted to do is, hold on, let me just show you guys really quick. So for those of you who are, like me, sort of minimally informed on the situation in Palestine, I've seen this resource go around a lot. I've wanted to get more edumacated on at least the historical context. I feel like I understand some amount of the current geopolitical tensions, but I was like, what better time to sit down than strike week, except I'm not really striking, so I have to pay my dues other ways. One of which is, well, if I'm gonna get edumacated on this, I might as well bring y'all along for the ride. So we're gonna look through this website a little bit, read through it a little bit. Maybe my sick husky voice will keep things interesting for you. If I cough, I apologize in advance. And then also, if you haven't heard of querying the map before, this is like I'm not super familiar with querying the map. I like see it pop up every now and again. That is a lot of pins. But people have been like dropping pins on Palestine. So I wanted to also read through some of those for Gaza specifically. I don't know. It's pretty heartbreaking. So I don't know how much we're going to be able to get through some of that. But I saw some screenshots posted on Twitter and I was like, shit, dude. It's not a good time. Anyway, I would not call this brave. To me, this is a basic thing. I'm actually a little concerned that so many people have come in here like, this is a brave thing to do. I'm like, how bad is it out there right now? I can't imagine I would like lose my job over this, you know? So that's like the only thing I can imagine where could be an issue. But anyways, yes. So if you don't know, I'm pledging to donate my January to February Twitch profits, I guess, and any donos or tips that you send through Stream Elements to Care for Gaza and to Palestine Children's Relief Fund. I'll be matching your dollars with my own money, my own cash. And then for PCR specifically, I can do some company matching. So we'll triple it, I guess quadruple it technically. And then I'm matching up to $5,000, but also honestly, I can't really call it a match because I'm pledging $5,000 no matter what. But I just wanted it to be like an encouragement for people to make more donations. So I don't know, maybe that'll work, maybe it won't. But either way, I'm pledging $5,000. It doesn't really matter. Risking my Twitch career. Since when have I had a Twitch career? Thank you, Embers. I appreciate your appreciation. Anyway, let's do some reading. It's not going to be fun reading, but I have scrolled through some of the pages and I feel like they're mostly very historically focused, which is actually, I think, where I have my biggest gaps, as I mentioned earlier. So I've met a lot of people who can't even fix their mouth to acknowledge the reality of the situation, unfortunately. I think, okay, I relate, and I think the thing that really gets my goat is when people don't want to call it a genocide, or when people try to call Hamas like a terrorist group or whatever, and I'm like, all right. There's like I know that I'm ignorant on the situation, but I feel like to go to that degree is just an even deeper level of ignorance. I'm like, if you spent 20 minutes reading up on the situation, you would have a very different opinion of it. So anyway, it's disheartening to me, but we do what we can. So that's what matters. Embers, thank you for the cheer. I appreciate it. Oh, do I know those people? What do you mean? What people? Okay, so I don't super know how we should navigate this. Maybe we just jump into the 101. The website as a whole is quite well structured. I think there's like, there's like timelines. Each of the articles is quite long. I am a fast talker and a fast reader, but if you guys want me to slow down or dive deep on something, we can do that. Or have a thing of focus. Because I don't think these are long enough. I don't think we would get through it in one stream. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It's one of those historical moments where if you actually looked it up and you weren't already a Zionist, it's a very black and white thing. Yeah, I know. It's like the words I feel like are obvious here are number one, colonialism, and number two, genocide. Like I actually have trouble understanding how you could see it any other way unless you had your lens extremely colored through, you know, other contexts, such as people who were raised literally to be Zionists, like to deprogram yourself there. I recognize the difficulty of that. And I think like my favorite genre of Twitter thread has been people who are like, I was raised by a bunch of Zionists to be a Zionist. And like this is what it took for me to unlearn those things. Those have been like a fun genre of thread to see. It gives me hope. Yeah. It takes like one Wikipedia search. I know, for fucking real. for fucking real. I think there are some, well, I don't know. I think I used to think there were some gray zones here around like the positions people would take on this. But I don't know. Maybe I'm getting, I don't know. The longer I spend immersed in it all, the longer I'm like, I don't, like it actually feels very clear to me. It's whatever. Anyways, let's do the actual history readings that I promised us. So, an introduction to Palestine through history. Bench, hello! I'm just gonna read, okay, guys? Palestine has a long and vast history, first documented in ancient Egyptian tablets as wait, is this too small for you? Is that better? Is that better? I think that should be better. There are some elements on the page that are a little out of whack now, but I also don't like these things, so we're gonna just not look at them. Okay. Is that better? Wait, what if I crop out I don't like the like share icons. It's fine. What have we learned so far? Just got here. Oh, Bench, in typical Ying fashion, we spent the first 10 to 15 minutes talking about how I got sick in New York and how I've been nonstop playing Octopath Traveler 2. So we're just starting. You come just on time. My face cam will block text. That is a good point. Let me move here. Actually, maybe if I join chat here and then we move the window like this. Like this? Is that better? I think that'll be better. Okay. My face is kind of pointed the wrong way now, but it's okay. We'll deal. You're sick of New York and get you out. I'm sorry, Viku. Are you trapped? All right. Yes, I'm with you now on the same side of screen. Flip the cam. We can do that. We can flip the cam. Hold on. Let me mirror the camera. That's a very funny suggestion. Okay, how do I don't know how to, is it like a transform effect? Don't know how to do that. Oh, I found it. Transform. Flip horizontal. Yay! All right, we did it. Yeah, decolonize Palestine. Yes. If you all have that link ready, I would appreciate it. We will continue. Oh, sorry, that's for later. We'll continue to share the link if people ask. All right, it's a Yang. Well done, queer friends. If you could live in a country that isn't America, what country would you live in? Oh man, that's really hard. I guess if I could live anywhere, probably somewhere in Europe? Canada? Maybe I should live in Canada. Yeah, that's probably the closest I could get. Okay, my evil counterpart, Yang. Palestine has a long and vast history. First documented in ancient Egyptian tablets as Peliset over 3,000 years ago. The region between the Mediterranean and the River Jordan has come to mean many different things to many different peoples. Throughout the ages, Palestine has been home to dozens of cultures, kingdoms, and empires. From Assyrian to Nabatean, is that how you say it, to Persian and Roman and many more, each influencing as well as being influenced by the rich cultural and civilizational melange that defined the area. These ancient influences can still be felt today in the idioms, vocabulary, and toponymy used by its native Palestinian population. Even Palestinian agricultural practices can be traced back to the... Maybe we should keep a counter of the number of times I don't know how to pronounce a word. Natufians, one of the people credited with inventing agriculture, who called Palestine and the Fertile Crescent their home as far back as 9000 BCE. Before we continue, it is important to stress that when we talk about Palestine, we're not talking about a Palestinian nation state. For the vast majority of history, the concept of a nation state did not exist. Today, the nation state is so ubiquitous that many have come to internalize it as natural. This is actually raising a very interesting point. We took like I took a languages and nationalism seminar when I was in college that like profoundly changed the way I think about nation and boundary and identity. Okay. Natufians. Okay. How do you all know how to say these words? The fuck? Oh, are we making a drinking game? Take a shot. Wait, hold on. I know I said I would stop like self-medicating with alcohol, but I feel like my relationship with alcohol has gotten healthier, and I think I deserve to celebrate the close to the end of my illness with some alcohol. So why don't we make it like a gentle drinking game? Let's do it. Every time I see a word that I like don't know how to say, I will take a little sip of my carbonated like spritz seltzer water thing. I think it's like a soju cocktail thing. If you want to get some tea or water or something else, whether it's alcohol or not, please feel free to join me. I'm gonna go grab a can of it. I'll be right back. I'm gonna recommend it to you all because it's my like favorite alcoholic beverage right now. One second. Okay, so it's, what do you mean, okay, she's gone? I just got back. Latency got your ass. I'm just gonna show this to you guys. So, here we go. It's, I found these in our local Chinese supermarket, but you might be able to find them elsewhere. I don't really know. I think it's called Lunar. And this, so, okay, let me first warn you, they have a variety of, flavors. I don't know why I blinked on that word. I actually tried all of the other flavors because they had a variety pack, and I was sorely disappointed in all of them until I saved the yuzu one for last because I was like, that's boring. And then I sipped it and I was like, that's good. And then I went back and I bought a pack of just the yuzu one because that's how good it was. So I usually don't like craft hard seltzer. That's the place that I start in, but I do really like flavored cocktails and actually, I'm weird about cocktails. I really like mezcal cocktails. I'm the two extreme ends of the spectrum. I like the really girly, sweet, fruity ones, and then I like the hard mezcal, smoky, peaty ones, and nothing in between. So that's my taste, if it helps inform you. So this is on the sort of like light, bubbly, citrusy end of the spectrum, and I like that it's not, it's like 4.7% alcohol, so it's pretty low alcohol content. And the yuzu flavor is just phenomenal. I really like it. It's not like overly or underly. It's just right. It's very Goldilocks. But anyway. Oh, ABV. Yeah, I just said it's 4.7%. Sorry, that took me a while to get to. Has this become a liquor recommendation stream? There was a time where every single one of my streams was like a liquor recommendation stream. And then I was like, sorry. I was like, oh, I'm becoming like an actual alcoholic. Like, I can no longer joke about being an alcoholic because I am a true to God actual alcoholic. Shit. So I went through I guess you could call it a detox period, but I had like several months where I basically did not drink alcohol except for socially. And even socially, I would limit myself to only 1 or 2 drinks. So that's where we're at. It would be a good drink for Lunar New Year. This might be my last can. I might have to restock, but... Anyway, if anyone else would like to join our drinking game, you do not have to have alcohol. Please feel free to grab some tea or Tea, water. I almost said tea or tea. So that's the state of my brain right now. I even stopped asking what tea to be. Oh wait, but Renz, I do have tea today. I brought back my usual 正山小种 Lap Sang So Chang. I always forget what the white people call it. Anyway. Have you tried nectar? When am I giving chat hongbao? I'm not giving you hongbao. I'm not married. If you're married, you better give me hongbao, actually. Yeah, it's a hydration game. It's a hydration game. If you're sipping water, just a sip. Don't overdo it because there's going to be a lot, actually. Okay, so let's start. We were talking about the nation state. Y'all actually had some interesting comments about that. Let me scroll back up to this. Santi, the generally accepted points of birth of nation state as concept are the treaties of Westphalia 1648 and Utrecht 1713. I didn't even know that there were like moments of history that you could trace it back to. I thought it was like a gradual thing. Yeah, Ying, why not married? We're the grandchildren. Yo, you sound like my dad. All right. One sip to make up for all the previous ones. Oh, it's so tasty. Napoleon was another moment. Wait, really? I actually can't tell if you're joking. Really? Okay. Today, the nation state is so ubiquitous that many have come to internalize it as natural. This is not the case, and we should be especially wary of imposing our modern conceptions on a context where they would be nonsensical. For example, the impulse to imagine our ancestors as some closed-off, well-defined, unchanging homogenous group having exclusive ownership over a territory that somehow corresponds to modern-day borders has no basis in history. Well, who wrote this? It's good flow. Unfortunately, this is the foundational myth of many reactionary ethno-nationalist ideologies. This is very true. Does this link to something? No basis in history. Oh, it's imagined communities. This was one of our readings for the seminar I mentioned. This is a good one. This is a very good one. It is a dense read, but it's a good one. Not joking, it really is a Napoleon thing. The diplomat here, I'll drop my wisdom whenever I think it'll help. I love that, Santi. Thank you as always to chat's resident diplomat. And we have international studies major in Main Tourism. Perfect. Sorry, your username just clicked for me. I like it. We love sources. This particular source is quite, I will say it's quite academic. But if you're in an academic mood to read about the, I don't know, I guess the spread of nationalism and the concept of nation state, I didn't read the whole thing. I read excerpts based on like what was assigned to me. I liked it. I thought it just was very, that and like the first time I read about the Superior Wharf, I guess it'd be a hypothesis, or is it a theory? I don't really know. But the first time I read about Superior Wharf, I was like, I had like a similar reaction when I was reading that one. Nikita! Let's go with the watermelon emoji. Happy 25 months. Thank you for the resub. Okay. As elsewhere, over the millennia, kingdoms rose and fell, religions were founded, wars both holy and unholy were waged, and people lived, mixed, moved, and died out. In other words, history happened. This article does not aim to delve into the minutiae of this Palestinian history. Indeed, entire books could be and have been written on the subject. Rather, the goal of this introduction is to describe the political context that led up to the modern Palestinian question. And then the header reads, Palestine under the Ottoman Empire. A lot of these books have detractors and you just sort of have to accept it whenever going in. Imagine communities included. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I think part of the fun is, I think that's why I liked it in the seminar format, is because we were able to like dive deep and discuss in depth in a very like ivory tower ideological way. The privilege you have under a liberal arts education that I received. You bought the last watermelon at the market. We love it. Zenpachi, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Welcome to the clutch. All right. Following the decisive defeat of the Mamluks in the Battle of... Cheers. Marsh Dabik? The Levant? Laid over... What are these words? Laid over for the conquering Ottoman armies. You know, usually when I read history texts, I don't have to say them out loud. In my defense, a few months later, they would enter Jerusalem and usher in one of the longest chapters of Palestinian history, lasting over 400 years. Take a shot. No, we're not shotting. We're sipping. Sip. Gentle sip of whatever drink you have in hand. Jerusalem held an important place in Ottoman eyes due to its religious and historic significance. From the onset of their rule, sweeping and majestic construction projects were carried out, which would become staples of Jerusalemite. I think I got that one, not going to take a sip. Architecture and topography, such as the striking walls of Jerusalem, erected by Suleiman the Magnificent. Over its history, the Ottomans, this is like actually bringing back a little bit of high school history class. The Ottomans divided Palestine into various political configurations and divisions, the last of which came in 1887, that's quite recent, where Palestine was divided into 3 districts. I want to see the source. Wait, hold on. Let me actually sign into my Goodreads. Hold on, let me hide. Let me sign into my Goodreads so I can save these books. 1 second. Sign in. Sign me in, bitch! Bitch! Oh! Chris! Happy 1 year and 1 month. Won't be able to resub when Feb starts, so Jan is my last. No worries at all. Thank you for subbing for so long. Thank you for all the streams. I won't stop watching Twitch streams. Jan is my last sub month, but I'll keep watching. Of course, Chris. I appreciate that. Thank you for renewing your sub. All right, I'm adding this to my want to read. Perfect. Let's continue. Oath 2, where you at? All right. Palestine was divided into 3 districts. Sanjaks. Take a sip. Jerusalem, Nablus, and Acre. The Sanjak of Jerusalem was of such importance to the Ottomans that it would be governed directly by Constantinople, later Istanbul. I had a hot second moment where I was like, have I been? The answer is yes. The population of these 3 at the time would amount to approximately, what is this reference? Is also a Goodreads. Before their diaspora, the photographic history of the Palestinians. All right. 600,000, the vast majority of which were Sunni Muslim. Palestinian Christians made up around 10% of the population, while Jewish Palestinians numbered around 25,000, mainly situated in Jerusalem. Hebrons? Is it a hard H? Is it? I wouldn't know what language it is. Safad and Tiberias. We will take 2 sips for that. In the slim bit, the Ottomans ruled like this: pay tax, help in war, don't cause trouble, and we'll leave you alone most of the time. That sounds kind of like Amsterdam. I had to think really hard because I was like, this like rings. It reminds me of something a tour guide said to me once. No worries for the long sub message. Vince, hello. We are edumacating ourselves on Palestinian history because I don't know it. I freely admit my ignorance. I was not the kid who paid attention in history class. I did, however, manage to ace my AP exams, so I guess back when I was in high school, that was what I thought mattered most. F. I'm glad to be an adult with a fully formed frontal lobe now who does not consider college my end-all be-all. The Ottoman millet system, millet? So, they seemed quite tolerant during medieval Europe, but come World War I, they were also backwards. We stand a passing queen. What were they backwards on? I mean, a passing grade queen. Always. Various manifestations provided a certain degree of autonomy to minority religious and ethnic communities. While the system suffered from serious flaws, and its breadth and tolerance waxed and waned, as Maine was saying, with different governors and social and economic circumstances, it was still superior to the outright persecution and pogroms which various religious groups on the European continent had to endure. That's actually the relativity of that is an interesting comment. Okay, so these are the Sanjaks, which I guess was the like split regions. They have a map. And then there's independent Sanjak of Jerusalem. What are these red lines? What is the green one? Oh, hold on, we see. It's a vilayet boundary, Sanjak boundary, and then there's a railway. Relations between the numerous religious groups in Palestine were generally stable and peaceful, nurtured by more than a millennium of coexistence and shared adversity. The backwardness came from traditionalism versus brutalist modernization. Armenian genocide is an extreme example. Oh, as in backwards on the tolerance point. I see. Okay. I was gonna say fair, but then I was like, I don't think that's a word I would use to describe a genocide. Okay. Relations between the numerous religious groups in Palestine were generally stable and peaceful, nurtured by more than a millennium of coexistence and shared adversity. Sorry, I already read that line. For example, the inscription on the Jaffa Gate of Jerusalem reads, "There is no God but Allah, and Abraham is his friend." And in a nod to Christian and Jewish Ottomans who, like Muslims, are considered to be part of an Abrahamic religious tradition. Palestinian Muslims, perhaps uniquely so, were also in the habit of celebrating religious festivals in honor of the prophets and holy men of Judaism. Didn't know that. Such as Reuben, son of Jacob. This attitude was also extended towards Christian Palestinians, where the keys of the Holy Sepulchre remain traditionally entrusted with the Muslim family to this day. I didn't know they got along like that. Tolerance does not mean acceptance. That is fair. That is very fair. I don't know what to type. Thank you for the key, Mash3. Happy 33 months. It's insane. However, as with any empire, there were times of peace and prosperity, as well as times of hardship and war. Towards the end of the life when the Ottoman Empire, the latter was much more common than the former. With the advent of European-style nationalism, gotta love it, and the weakening of the Ottoman state, the relations between the various ethnic groups and communities would fray. There were rebellions against Ottoman rule, and Palestine even managed to win autonomy for a good while under the leadership of Daher al-Umar. Take a sip. The three religious groups got along fairly well, and then the entire Little Crusades thing. Oh, the Little Crusades thing. And things got awkward. 3-3, you're right. It's always Europe, isn't it? Enjoy your lurk, toast. Okay. Oh. It would eventually be crushed by Constantinople. These tensions would later be exacerbated by the Young Turk Revolution and the increasing efforts to Turkify the various Ottoman provinces. Always. The empire would eventually collapse after its defeat in the First World War, and the various peoples who made up its population, some of whom had sided with the Allies against the Ottomans, looked towards independence and establishing their own nation-states. This, of course, would be thwarted as the people fell from the domination of one empire to the domination of many others. It was during the final few decades of this dramatic collapse that a certain Austro-Hungarian thinker, Theodor Herzl, was planting the seeds of a new political movement that would change Palestinian history forever. An Austro-Hungarian thinker? Yeah, I don't know Zionist history. Is this like a thing? Is this the guy? The worst form of colorism is the official denial of Turkey of the Armenian genocide and the ethnic cleansing during the Turkish War of Independence and rejection of the terms of the Treaty of Lausanne? Wait, why is that a colorism thing? Kono's here for the edumacation. We're here to get edumacated. It's a horrible context to do it in, but at least we're doing it. Can you believe the Ottoman Empire existed to see both Mozart and Yogi Berra? Fair. I think there's like the contemporaries portion of that is actually a little crazy. Hadn't thought about that. Oh yeah, he's a thing? Okay, here we go. The Zionist movement. Convened in the Swiss city of Basel, is that how it's pronounced? Take a sip. In 1897, the first Zionist Congress included over 200 delegates from all over Europe. The program of the Congress called for establishing a Jewish state in Palestine and to begin coordinating the settlement of Zionists there. This, according to Herzl, the founder of political Zionism. I was asking if he was the guy. I guess he really is the guy. He's the guy. The founder of political Zionism and president of the Zionist Congress would constitute a, quote, solution for the Jewish question and emancipate the Jewish people from persecution. It's never too late to get edumacated. That's a good point, Vince. I appreciate that. It's a good mindset to follow for the rest of our lives. Well, there were other Zionist and proto-Zionist movements preceding this, which had settled in Palestine, such as Hibbat Zion. The Zionist Congress was the first to organize and marshal the colonization efforts in a centralized and effective way. Hello, Shokim! Welcome. Hello, Crow. Zionism, then, is a settler colonial political movement that calls for establishing a Jewish nation. What's this link? Hold on. I want to make sure we got all of these. So I added Palestinian identity. We have before their diaspora. We have expulsion of the Palestinians, the concept of transfer in Zionist political thought. Wow, this looks very, I may have been assigned this in college type cover. Oh, this one's a PDF, y'all. Zionist colonialism in Palestine. Faiz Sayeh? Sip. from 1965 in Beirut, Lebanon. It's just like a literal scan. I love this. It's not actually that long. It's like 43 scanned pages long. Let me drop this PDF link in chat in case you want it. That book is rough, by the way. Okay, good warning. Thank you. Wait, the PDF or the other one that I commented on the cover for? What if the answer to persecution wasn't also persecution? Well said, Mika. Reynolds, hello. Okay. The issue here, of course, is that Palestine was already inhabited. The question of what to do with the native Palestinian Arabs animated much of the early discussions of the Zionist movement, though the consensus was that they needed to be removed somehow, either by agreement or by force. Indeed, there was no way to establish a Jewish majority state in Palestine without seriously displacing most of the native population. It's this one again. I'm assuming that's the book. One of the main drivers of the movement was the wave of anti-Semitism that swept through Europe in the later 19th century. I had to do the Roman numeral math for a moment, with a prime example, the Dreyfus Affair in France. Oh, okay. As in there was a push out that was resulting in the sort of settler colonial solution, for lack of a better term. Okay. I feel like solution is a very sensitive word in a Jewish context, though. I don't know if I would use it that way either. When we call Zionism settler colonialism, we refer to a very specific phenomenon. It was cruel to use Roman numerals there. Wow. The Journal on Genocide Research has a very... Oh, sorry, you guys can't see it. It has a cover that is quite... Capital C cover. That's a cover, all right. It's a paper? Yeah, it's a paper. Some, like, I guess, operational definition of settler colonialism in a specific context. Okay. Settler colonialism differs from classic colonialism in that settler colonialism only, say that 20 times fast, only initially and temporarily relies on an empire for their existence. Only initially and temporarily relies on an empire for their existence. Oh, as in it does not have a continued tie to that empire over time. Okay, in many situations, the colonists aren't even from the empire supporting them and end up fighting the very sponsor that ensured their survival in the first place. So like the US would count. Another difference is that settlers are not merely interested in the resources of these new lands, but also in the lands themselves and to carve out a new homeland for themselves in the area. That's actually a very good, very clear definition. I didn't even know the difference until now. I thought it was just another way of saying colonialism. Jews relied on the British Empire. Wait, are you guys like fighting to explain settler colonialism first? I want to say something, but I feel like I ain't smart or educated enough to. Lily, this is how should we say it? I want to say a safe space, but that when I say it like that, it feels like I'm mocking the phrase. You know what I mean? Like some people use that phrase like it's a derogatory statement. But we're not gonna make fun of stupid questions here. You know how people are like, no such thing as a stupid question? I think yes, such thing as a stupid question, but the important thing is to create a space that like allows and encourages stupid questions. Like you should ask your stupid question. It's a stupid question, but you should ask it. Like that's my opinion on it anyway. You're drunk, 3? This is the only time I know anything here. Wait, what do you mean? I feel like as an IR major, wouldn't you know a lot of things? We are openly stupid here. That's a that's a good way to put it, Bench. I like that. We can all ask and answer and research questions together. I like that. And drunk. Listen, I'm not drunk yet. I've had 5 sips. I made that number up. I don't know if it's 5 or more. What if I timed out Bench for fun? Wow, is that what 3's like when he's drunk? Wait, what was that? Oh, 9, thank you for the gift sub to Bench. Fuck. It's one of those gift subs where I'm like, I should have done that first, actually. You did win. 9. All right. I know, we did both get beat. Thank you for the gift sub, I appreciate it. Welcome back to the clutch, Bench. I like how Bench is the one jeering. I almost spewed. Because it goes, get drunked or something like that. And then and it goes, it's 2, 3, 4 timed out bench for 600 seconds. Okay. Anyway, I guess a certain mod is letting the power play go to his head when he's drunk. So settler colonialism equals freeloaders kicking out original homeowners after they were supposed to be roommates. Well, wait, roommates? Settler colonialism equals freeloaders kicking out original homeowners after they were supposed to be roommates. I don't think it has to do with roommates. I think it's a very intentional kicking out original homeowners. It's more so that they're doing it with the backing of an empire. So they're like full force kicking out the original homeowners. I don't think there was ever any intention. Yeah, thieves and robbers who kick you out. I don't think there was an intention to be roommates. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Modern day Zionists might recoil, I think both are correct, at Zionism being called a colonial ideology, yet in early days the Zionist movement was astonishingly honest about its existence as a form of colonialism. For example, Herzl wrote in 1902 in this PDF that we are now citing, to infamous colonizer Cecil Rhodes, arguing that Britain recognized the importance of, quote, colonial expansion. Oh, so completely from outside. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was clarifying earlier, like the United States of America is a settler colonial state. Because we were like British Commonwealth for a while, right? I don't know if we were ever officially Commonwealth. We were a British colony for a while. I don't know the history well enough to proclaim Commonwealth. I think that was a later development. Okay, you are being invited to help make history, he wrote. It doesn't involve Africa, but a piece of Asia Minor. Not Englishmen, but Jews. How then do I happen to turn to you since this is an out-of-the-way matter for you? How indeed, because it is something colonial. Vladimir Jabotinsky, take a sip. In an essay titled The Iron Law in 1925 stated that a voluntary reconciliation with the Arabs is out of the question either now or in the future. If you wish to colonize a land in which people are already living, you must provide a garrison for the land. Or find some rich man or benefactor who will provide a garrison on your behalf. Or else give up your colonization, for without an armed force which will render physically impossible any attempt to destroy or prevent this colonization is impossible, not difficult, not dangerous, but impossible. Wow, they were very honest. I'm almost not sick anymore. You might notice me coughing a little bit or sniffling. So I'm like 80% there. Zionism is a colonization adventure. And therefore it stands or falls by the question of armed force. It is important to speak Hebrew, but unfortunately it is even more important to be able to shoot. Or else I am through with playing at colonizing. Yeah, for real, genocidally honest. This is a crazy, fucking wild quote. Jesus. What? These quotations are merely the tip of the iceberg, but lest you think we are cherry picking and choosing out of context passages, we invite you to read their original writings. There are only so many mental gymnastics you can perform to try and find a different meaning to, quote, Zionism is a colonization adventure. Literally told them, kill and do not hesitate to do so or you will fail. Yeah, That's pretty straight up. I know, calling it an adventure is crazy. That's actually insane. To drive this point even further, ooh, I like this citation link on even further. It's quite like side-eye energy. Zionism and Imperialism, the Historical Origins, published in the Journal of Palestine Studies. The first Zionist bank established was named the Jewish Colonial Trust, and the whole endeavor was supported by the Palestine Jewish Colonization Association and the Jewish Agency Colonization Department. I forgot that's what banknotes used to look like. I like how this page is talking as if Zionists are reading the page. Yeah, it's like not just Zionists, but also like I think because this page is I think targeted at like the me of only a few months ago, right, where I would have been coming at this as if it were not so black and white, because I wasn't informed on the situation. I think it's fair to write, I guess the wording maybe it's a little defensive or aggressive, but to write knowing that your reader may have that perspective of like, I'm just being impartial and I would appreciate like an impartial presentation. And so like people with that kind of a mindset would like need wording like that, right? If you were this direct in a movie, book, show, etc., you'd be critiqued for being too on the nose. But history is just like this. Yeah, for real. Yeah. Okay. It would only be a matter of time before the Zionist movement began sending settlers to Palestine and forming a foothold with the goal of taking over the entirety of Palestine. The Ottoman defeat in World War I and Palestine becoming a British mandate was the golden opportunity that would allow them to fulfill these aims. This will be discussed in depth in the next introductory article. The Mandate of Palestine. I hate impartial people. Pick a side, man. At least Zionists are honest. I think it is fair that on certain topics there are things where you can be impartial, right? Like, does pineapple belong on pizza? You can be impartial. I don't care. I don't give a shit if you put pineapple on your pizza. I really don't care. Tabs or spaces, you know, there's arguments on either side, but I don't. In the end of the day, I don't give a shit. And then there's things like, is there a genocide happening in Gaza? Yeah, I don't think you can be impartial about that. 3 is drunk. Hey, if I stay up for the end of the stream, do we get to solve the Israel-Palestine conflict? That sure would be nice, right? It's aggressive because impartiality to a clear history of violence and oppression, you are an enemy to a movement for freedom and justice, basically. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it has to be that aggressive. I agree with that. Being impartial on whether people deserve to get bombed or not is crazy. Yeah, I know. And the people who are like, yeah, but on one hand, it's like people who are like, oh, it's an Israel-Palestine war. And I'm like, do you hear yourself? Like, do you know what a war is? Wait, why'd Benji get timed out again? Anyway, well. In the wake of its defeat in World War I, the Ottoman Empire... Sorry, my nose got blocked up a little. Are you okay? Is my nose back? I think so. The Ottoman Empire was dissolved and its regions carved up and divided among various European colonial powers. In the Levant... You know, I should really figure out how to pronounce that word. Levant? Levant? It's from the French to rise, as in sunrise, meaning the east. Historically, the region along the eastern Mediterranean shores, roughly corresponding to modern-day Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and certain adjacent areas. Oh, okay. Levant? Wait, why'd this one say Levant? Wait, what? But Google told me it was pronounced Levant. Okay, I'm gonna do Levant. Palestine and Jordan fell, basically it's a strip of land. A specific strip of land encompassing the region along the eastern Mediterranean shores, roughly corresponding to modern day Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and certain adjacent areas. There we go. Hope that clears it up for me. It's French, it's fucking made up. It's French, just lie. The utter disrespect. I love it. Palestine and Jordan fell under the mandate of the British, while Syria and Lebanon to that of the French. The British entered Jerusalem, and I feel like if there's one key takeaway from this entire conflict and me trying to get educated on it, it's that I didn't pay enough attention when it came to things about World War I, because I feel like I was very invested in World War II, but World War I was sold to me, well, taught to me by my history teachers like it was just World War II, the prequel. You know what I mean? We like didn't really spend a lot of time on it. Anyway, we're in Harvard. Welcome to chat. What's up? The British entered Jerusalem in 1917, and Palestine officially became a mandate in 1922. Palestine was considered... I feel like the hyperlinks are inherently like passive-aggressive, the placement of them. The statehood of Palestine, international law in the Middle East conflict. Okay. Palestine was considered a Class A mandate, meaning that it possessed sufficiently advanced infrastructure and administrative capabilities as to be considered... Sorry, this is a little... I'm going to zoom out a little. It possessed sufficiently advanced infrastructure and administrative capabilities as to be considered provisionally independent, though it would still be under the control of the Allied forces until it was deemed ready for full independence. This, of course, would never come to pass. The Mandate of Palestine provided a golden opportunity for the Zionist movement to achieve its aims. The British were far more responsive to Zionist goals than the Ottomans were, and had earlier produced the Balfour Declaration, that does ring a bell from history class, promising the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. 3, thank you for the gift sub to Wigwam Wiggy. I want Ying on American... What? I don't. I have no respect for this nation. World War I set the conditions for World War II. Yeah, that's exactly how it was presented to us, but they kind of just glossed over it all and said that without really digging deep on it, I feel like, in a way that like actually heavily influenced the modern situation in Palestine. It's like watching the Hobbit movies. We all know Lord of the Rings is where it's at. Oh my God. I don't know if I would use that metaphor for 2 world wars, but I see where you're coming from. So my son punched your son and now your dad is getting involved. So I have to involve my dad, who's going to involve my uncle, who's going to involve his entire extended family. Now the neighborhood is on fire. Wait, 3, is that World War I? Is that your summary? You forgot the whole, you punched my son, so told his brother, who then told his older brother, who grabbed his dad, so he grabbed his dad, who called in his uncle. Hablas español, no hablas español. I'm sorry. How do you say sorry? Lo siento, no hablas español. Respect for America. I watched my graduation have the only non-American sing the anthem. Wait, like, the only person who was not an American citizen? Wait, like there was only one person in your school who didn't have an American citizenship? Wait, what? Which was me? I care nothing for this country. You sang the national anthem at your graduation? That's amazing. I mean, it would have been a fun opportunity. I don't know. Singing the national anthem is pretty fun, though. I think the U.S. national anthem is very diva-able in a fun way. Who might have otherwise not have, if they were just like, lol, I am not going to honor that agreement since this is fucking stupid. Sorry, you don't speak Spanish? Is that what I said? Is lo siento. No hablo. Lo siento, no hablo español. Thank you for fixing. I didn't even think about that. How about we all make our own country making a constitution? I don't want to be. What do we spend all of the Fontaine streams? Oh, I gotta get that edited someday. Maybe 10 years from now when Genshin's no longer relevant, we'll edit that entire stream where I was like going through the 7 stages of grief for what the prison was. I mean, not a prison, an independent micronation with a benevolent dictator. Arguably a commune. I'm still circling on that concept. Disculpame, no hablo español. I don't know this word at all, Kami. Thank you for edumacating me. I'm gonna forget it though. I'm sorry. Lo siento, mi español es muy mal or malo. Oh, a network state. Wait, what do you mean? No español, no habla, no habla. Would it be habla? I'm bad at conjugation. What would you say if Raya made me want to be a warden? No. We are not buying it. We're abolitionists here, right? I would hope. No hablo. Yeah, thank you. Okay. I'm glad I got the conjugation right after y'all called me out. Sorry, you don't speak Spanish. Was really fucking funny. Dude! Thank you! Thank you for the don't know, for the tip. Ying hearts indeed. That will be going straight into, let's start with PCRF because I want to max my company donation match first. Will this be available later? Wait, like this recording? Yeah, I don't take VODs down. Oh shit, some of them might be expiring though. I need to bag some up. It's been a little while. I'll double check on that. That was the stream I found you from and I was like, okay, I'm home. Wait, what stream? What stream? Wait, like the Spanish one? Steamed buns or dumplings? That's a very random question, but I think ¿por qué no los dos? Since we're speaking, we're hablo español right now. Sorry, very off topic. Let's keep reading. Quote, His Majesty's government view with favor, wait, what? Oh, His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Wait, what? Nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Oh, so they did pretend to be neighbors. Oh, I got blurry? No, I'm not blurry anymore, but thank you for that catch. I'm not trilingual. AIS with inspiration. No. Not para todos nosotros. None of that. Not at all. You just finished your military service. Congrats on freedom, J-Cube. Oh my god. We're reading about Palestine. Welcome. It's good to have you. Despite the lofty words of Lord Balfour, a colonial empire massacring people all over the globe is not animated by altruism. Wait, actually though, who wrote this? I love their tone. Decolonize Palestine is an independent, self-funded project funded by two Palestinians. Sorry, I know it's a little cropped because we're zoomed in. The research and writing for these articles have been a labor of love spanning over a year. Like two people? Two people did all this? That's actually kind of nuts. Oh, they have a Patreon if you guys want to support them. Hold on, let me drop this link. I know it's like it's passive aggressive and then it's like aggressive. 这个想好像有点写错了啊。我想吃面 I relate though. I also 想吃面 all the time. What page is this? I just dropped the link, Lily. Well asked. Okay. Yes, you saw. Perfect, JQ. Let's keep going. The British had no genuine sympathy for the plight of the historically oppressed Jewish people. Rather, they saw in the Zionist movement a mechanism through which British interests in the Levant and Suez could be realized. Oh my god, did you guys see that incredible TikTok somebody made? I guess it was a TikTok series where somebody was like exploring like the canal that they wanted to build that essentially would run through the Gaza Strip. That shit blew my mind. You mean to tell me the British Empire was motivated by being the biggest asshole possible? Color me surprised. Keep this energy, 3. I'm very much enjoying. I'm going to the other highly contested nation state tomorrow. Wait, oh, Taiwan! Careful. I'm pretty vocal about a lot of things, but there's one topic I cannot broach because I can't endanger my family in China. There's one line I do not cross. Hydrate. Thank you, Renz. I will not dehydrate. I will hydrate. No, we're not gonna yode it. We're just gonna smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave. Yeah, don't tell on me. Where were we? Oh, emboldened by the Balfour Declaration and supportive British governors, the Zionist movement ramped up its colonization efforts and established a provisional proto-state within a state in Palestine called the I actually want to know how to pronounce this. Hold on.
Or Yishuv.
Yishuv? Is that right? Oh, it's Yiddish? Is it Yiddish? Unclear. Oh shit, here we go again. Suffering promoted by the British. Part 20. While the Yishuv's relationship with the British had its ups and downs, the British provided the Zionists... Oh, another link. What is this one? I love a good PDF. Zionist colonialism in Palestine, 1965. Oh, wait, this person we've seen on other papers cited here. Why are you guessing my prescription? I think I'm like negative. I wear contacts that are -1 in both eyes, basically. It's a light prescription. That's why sometimes you see me without my glasses and it's fine. The British provided the Zionists with explicit as well as tacit sponsorship, which would allow them to thrive. Meanwhile, they would harshly repress any Palestinian movement or organization while turning a blind eye to Zionist expansion, which by the end of the mandate enabled the conquest and mass destruction of hundreds of Palestinian villages and neighborhoods. Oh, but what was that in the earlier quote? It being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. The Brits being full of shit, part 50. Okay. These are the circumstances and events which would ultimately culminate in the establishment of Israel through the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and the erasure of their society. The next article will focus on Zionist aspirations, partition, the final years of the Mandate of Palestine, the War of 1948, and the Nakba, the original sin of Israel's Genesis. Not the British lying. Say it ain't so. More like part 1 billion. Colonialists supporting colonists. Color me shocked. But sure, Palestinian events started just last year. Yeah. Man. Oh, thank you for the stretch, Redeem. Let's do that. So we actually got, I wasn't sure if we actually got through this first article, which is the introduction. I wasn't sure we would. But for those of you just joining us, we are going through decolonizepalestine.com. Highly encourage this resource. I've seen it shared everywhere. And I've wanted to sit down and properly read it, and I figured it was a great time to read it with you all. There is a 101 that we're going through because it's very historically focused and it assumes no prior knowledge, which I appreciate. And this is part 2, the Mandate years and the Nakba. So we go. Oh, sorry, we need to stretch first. And they weren't keen on Arab nationalism in particular after the World War II revolt of Iraq. Oh. Yet another thing I never heard of. Things were not taught, I guess. Also, to be fair, I think it was hard for history to stick in my brain when I was a high schooler because I was a dumbass high schooler and I mean, you guys might be smarter. I think some of you guys are high schoolers. You might be smarter than I was. I was not interested in anything that basically would not get me into college. I was very small-minded. It was a miserable way to live. I wish better for you all if you're in high school and watching this. I'm Singaporean. We always say that Raffles was the founder of Singapore, and I fucking hate that. Damn you, Brit. Yeah, no, oh my God. I went to Singaporean international school, and they were always talking about motherfucking Sir Raffles, whatever the fuck. And the Rafflesia or whatever the stinky flower is. I always thought it was so funny that they named the world's stinkiest flower after this British man, this British colonialist. But is it the world's stinkiest flower? Now I'm maybe it's not. One of this, a very stinky flower. It's a stinky fucking flower. It's apparently, okay, I've never smelled it myself, but Singaporeans tell me the description is that it's rotting flesh. Anyway, yes, thank you for the hydration. Sunflower, Rafflesia, yeah. We were quizzed on that shit. They would ask us who founded Singapore, and the correct answer was Sir whatever the fuck Raffles. I want to smell that flower now just to know how stinky Mr. Raffles is. Anyway, let's do some wrist rolls. And then the other way around. Sharina, am I saying that right? Sharina Ho? Or Sharon Ho? I don't know how to read your name. I'm sorry. Welcome to chat. Hello. Ooh, Singapore mention? Yeah, we were talking about how I got the colonialist British Commonwealth Singapore history education. In case you're wondering, we have evidence of human settlement dating until way back to the 13th century AD. Oh, in Singapore? That's actually, I had no idea it was that far back. According to the Sejarah Melayu, I will sip to that because I don't know how to read it. Sang Nila Utama was the guy who first settled the island. I'm actually mind blown they have records of that because it's so far back. Hello, Sanjing Lu, let's go. Oh my God, TOT fans, did you guys see okay, so I haven't been retweeting very much on my Twitter timeline that isn't Palestine related due to Strike Week, but did you guys see it though? The new China server, Choose a Themis wuxia cards. One Strike Week is over. We'll get on it. Well, we'll watch the trailer. I haven't watched the trailer yet. I want to watch it with you guys. So we'll do it after Global Strike Week ends. Okay. And then we'll watch it again when the English side, when the global server release happens the whole year later, and we'll get to have it, the whole experience again. Anyway, Brits civilized? Oh, are we getting married? I didn't see that. Oh, the wedding's actually happening? That's crazy. How are they gonna keep an ultimate game going after a wedding? Though, to be fair, at this point I play Tears of Themis not for the ultimate aspect, but more for just like good writing. They finally brought good writers back on the team. For a whole year there, they were giving us like shit-ass writing, and I was sitting here like, why am I playing this game? So I didn't. I like basically quit the game for a year. I'm back now though. There's some good shit going down in Tears of Themis land. Okay, let's continue. We did our stretch, we did wrist rolls. Let's actually do a little bit of... Whenever there's new content, I check if you already posted about it. Yeah, no, that's why I'm not posting anything like not Palestine related for the week, just like in support of the strike. Because I'm like defecting in other ways, so I want to make up for it where I can. One of those things is like the easiest things for me. We're doing a no buy week, so this week I'm not buying things. Period. I had enough time to prepare that I like did my grocery shopping over the weekend for the week, so I'm good. Yeah, basically, I'm just not buying anything. The number of times I had a boba craving, and then I was like, I'm gonna go get boba. And then I was like, oh, actually, I'm not gonna get boba. I was like, oh, this is like marginally harder than I expected, but it's still one of the easiest asks on the list. And the other thing was just like a social media, not a blackout, but like a focus. I was like, I can do that. We can do that. It's doable. Raffle like a gotcha. I don't actually know how you pronounce his name. I did a course, and for it I had to write about me visiting the museum to the Sejarah. The Sejarah was written around 200 years post-arrival in Singapura, the coined term for Singapore. Basically, there's pottery and some evidence of settlement. Oh, interesting. And they had like names, though? Stan Jinglu, we are reading up on Palestine, on the history of Palestine, and sort of what has led up to the current situation. How many sips did we do? Did someone count? No, I don't think anyone's counting. Or maybe someone did count. I offer you all the question. Oi, bruv, have you had a nice whittled drink down at the pub? Not at the pub, but at home. Yeah, bruv. There are villages with the last half Pura. Oh, I mean city? Wait, Thaw, where are you again? All right, we're gonna keep reading. This is part 2. Tinned food as a cuisine. Terra a new one, go. Wait, have I told you guys my like, it's not like my story of radicalization, but there was a point at which I feel like my radicalization meter like spiked all of a sudden. Well, spike would imply that it came back down. It didn't go back down. It just went up and stayed up dramatically. It was a moment where my mom and I were visiting the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. So the V&A. Great museum, depending on how you define great. We were in the like Asia section of the museum, and I could not tear my mom away from the like porcelain display. It was like Chinese porcelain, and they had like a little display area for it. I mean, a large display area for it. And I just remember saying to her, I was like, why are you so like glued to these displays? Like, wouldn't you have seen plenty of this? Like, you're literally Chinese. And she was like, oh, but like, we don't have these in China. Like, we don't have that many of these kinds of artifacts in China. Because the colonizers took it. And I was like, ah! I had a moment. It wasn't just the colonizers, to be fair. They had an entire, civil war. And then, like, Taiwan took a lot also. No matter my opinions on that whole situation, which again, that's the line I don't cross on this stream for a lot of reasons. I think y'all can guess where I stand on this, but yeah, like between those two situations and the Cultural Revolution, there's not a lot of artifacts left in China. And the fact that the few artifacts left from certain periods of Chinese history that still exist are like in the Victoria and Albert Museum, I was like, I've never felt so violent. Like, I was borderline gonna, like, if you hand me a hammer right now, I will smash this display case. I will smash the glass. Holy shit, the heat that rose in my head. That was a moment of radicalization. Anyway, I think you can imagine why I was very pissed. So, needless to say, I let my mom spend as long as she wanted in that display, and I myself spent quite a while in that display as well. Oh my god. I was so mad. Anyway, here we go. Introduction to Palestine, Part 2, the Mandate and the Nakba. As we learned in the previous article, the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the birth of the Zionist movement, and the declaration of Palestine... My nose is still being a little fucky, sorry. The declaration of Palestine as a British mandate all contributed to birthing the Palestinian question. Even before Palestine was officially declared a mandate in 1922, British policies and preferential treatment of the Zionist colonists helped create a volatile political climate. You could call it that, for sure. Me who's going to the National Palace Museum. Good luck, brethren. Taking back everything the British has in the museum back to Peru and Mexico with the boys is my wet dream. There is actually a faction of activists, I guess, in the UK where their entire thing is they like go to museums and try to steal artifacts back. Which I was like, that's baller. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of history around like museums as a point of protest or a place of protest. Like the suffragist movement also did a lot of shit, a lot of painting slashing. Every time I hear about the suffragist movement and like how extremist they were, I was like like modern TERFs and white feminists ain't got shit. Like, they're so full of shit. They don't know what their own. If you're gonna call yourself a feminist, like you better know where it originates. Anyway, take down the crown while we're at it. Well, I mean, the current person wearing the crown might not last that much longer. What? While Zionist settlement in Palestine predates the Mandate years, the newly found British sponsorship, whether tacit or explicit, provided the perfect cover for the Zionist movement to ramp up its colonization efforts. French Revolution. What do you mean? Liberty, equality, fraternity. I'm trying to open this tab. Oh, it's the same paper as before. Ying threatens Charles. Clip it. For all intents and purposes, the Jewish, I looked this up, Yishuv became a proto-state within an existing nation, aiming to establish an exclusive Jewish ethnocracy. Is that how you pronounce it? The Yishuv had to contend, I should take a sip. Had to contend with the fact that the entirety of the land was inhabited by the native population. This is where the settler logic of elimination came into play, coined by scholar Patrick Wolf. That's a familiar name. Oh, it's this one. Okay. This means that the settlers needed to develop not only moral justifications for the removal of the natives, but also the practical means to ensure its success. This could take the form of ethnic cleansing, genocide, or other gruesome tools of ethnocide. Long-ish live the king! I love that. That's very good. Don't tell them our plan about making him not last longer. No, there's no plan. The plan is sit and watch. I mean, look at him. Come on. People are always like, oh, you shouldn't like make fun of anyone dying. And then I'm like, but like sometimes I'm okay. Anyway, if you're at all familiar with Zionist talking points, scholar is just an old-timey word for podcast. What do you mean? What do you mean? Winter is here. But, sometimes it's fine. Well said, Kami. Okay. If you're at all familiar with Zionist talking points, which actually maybe to my credit, I'm not. The level to which I was oblivious about like Zionism in general before the, recent, I would say, escalation, is that back when I was in college, I remember I walked through our student center and somebody had put up like a big sort of butcher paper like banner thing, because you know how in college you like do a lot of like community discussion and engagement and stuff, and so people will put up like literal boards with like literal physical discussion boards. And so there was like a big discussion board set up in the student center, like massive. It covered like a whole wall, a large wall in the student center, and in the center of it was like a huge marker question that was like what do you think of Zionism? And I remember we were walking through, because we cut through the student center to get to wushu practice, so walking through with my like, I was heavily armed with my fake wushu weapons, and we're like walking past this poster, and I turned to my roommate who's in wushu with me, and I was like, what's Zionism? And she looked at me like I had suddenly sprouted antlers. This was probably 2015, 2014, something like that. So that's the level of ignorance I'm coming at this with, which is why I feel like there are few excuses. Like if someone of my level of ignorance was able to come around within a few weeks, actually, I don't even think it took 1 week, to be honest. It took a 20-minute Google search. Yeah. Anyway. Fuck yeah, wushu practice. The more I learn about Palestine, the more I straight up do not want to associate with anyone who doesn't condemn Israel's actions. That's exactly what I was saying earlier too, Raven. The more you learn, the more you're like, I just don't understand. Like you go from going like, I can see why people are confused, to like, you know, weeks down the line, you're like, why are people still confused? Actually, it like there's nothing beyond willful ignorance in my eyes at this point. If you're at all familiar with Zionist talking points, you can see this logic of elimination in motion. Quote, a land without a people for a people without a land. There is no such thing as a Palestinian. Israel made the desert bloom. And many other talking points illustrate this perfectly. Oh wow, the like close parallels to every other sort of like settler colonial state that we're familiar with in history. It's pretty clear. The settlers would never admit that the Palestinians constituted a people, but rather viewed them as a disconnected communities at best and wandering rootless vagabonds at worst. Such arguments would form the basis for legitimizing the dispossession of the natives. This is hardly unique to Zionist settler colonialism. For example, you can immediately see how denying the existence of Palestinians resembles the terra nullius agreement used by colonists all over the world. You can read more about this here. What's this? Oh, this is one of their myths pages, which we can take a look at in a bit. Okay, if we get to it. I actually learned about this thanks to Miss Marvel. What? I know nothing about apartheid, and that led to a rabbit hole through all the colonialism that happened in the Middle East, including Palestine. Oh, interesting. I would say that one thing I was actually very well educated on was like apartheid specifically in South Africa. I mean, that's where the term originates. I think partially due to its emphasis in both my history and my English classes, because we like read novels and books about it, but also because there have been major pop, like mainstream celebrity type figures, for example, Trevor Noah, where like this kind of discussion has been hard to avoid. Like if I'm a Trevor Noah fan and I read Trevor Noah's autobiography, I'm gonna be very closely acquainted with the experience of apartheid in South Africa, right? So, yeah, I don't know. It's like weird that I would have in-depth knowledge of like these things and not the Palestinian situation for some reason. This is such a good resource. So many parallels I can make towards the genocide of Native Americans. I know, yeah, exactly. That's what I keep coming back to too, because that's actually one thing that I would say my history classes growing up, I mean, they skimped on it. They could have done better, but overall it was okay. It was enough of a foundation for me to do my own investigation after. This, however, was a situation that was not covered at all. Trevor is a gem. I absolutely agree. If you have not read Trevor Noah's Born a Crime, his autobiography, I don't know why I can't say that word today. Number one, I didn't know until later after I read the book already, but he narrates his own audiobook, and it very much feels like he's just talking in his Trevor Noah way. So if you're not a books guy, I would encourage you to try the audiobook instead. You don't have to, I know audiobooks are kind of expensive. You don't have to buy it. You can usually get audiobooks through your library. Look up Libby, Libby. That's one recommendation. And then alternatively, if you're not an audiobooks guy, read the book. It's so good. I just read it. I just like raw dogged the book. New motion. I moved to call all book reading that doesn't involve like audio supplements raw dogging. I will be referring to all reading as raw dogging from here on. My history classes had a lot of indigenous tribes and series disappearing without a trace, but even 8th grade me knew that was some BS. Yeah, no, for sure. Like we read those passages and I remember like looking at my friends and we were like like rolling our eyes. Yeah, I had a very similar education. Just like they just went like, and Israel appeared. And like left it at that. Apartheid as a crime in international law needs two elements: a denial of rights de facto, practices of separation, and the letter of law calls and regulates the denial of rights. So like Jim Crow America would be apartheid as crime in international law. Okay, that translates in my head. Thank you to the Ying Learns for explaining. The valedictorian of my high school, a year ahead of my class year, ended up moving to Israel to join the IDF. What? That's a choice. This is about 8 years ago. I got rid of him from my socials ever since. I'm glad you are no longer connected to this guy. Yeah. We're raw dogging the books from now on. You have to go because of ADHD. No worries at all. Thank you for hanging out for as long as you have. It's been a long time already. I'm amazed that your ADHD conquered it for that long. Livy is great. Hoopla is an alternative. Oh, yes. Hoopla, I have been meaning to check out. I have not. I'm gonna think about that whenever I read a book. Yeah, no, every time you crack the spine on a book, just be like, I'm raw dogging this book. This feels a little cursed. Maybe I shouldn't say this. Maybe it is not a word I can use like that. Let's keep going. We never sugarcoated the crap we went through. We had natives jump away from the colonists. I like that. I'm glad your history classes covered it properly. Okay. Historically, Palestine has always been a place of refuge for many populations fleeing war and famine. It is home to Palestinians of diverse origins, such as Armenian, Bosnian, and even Indian Palestinians. They all come to Palestine for different reasons, and to this day form an integral part of its society. The issue was never with the idea of Zionists moving to Palestine, but rather that from the onset, the Zionist movement was not interested in coexistence. Oh, but what was that quote earlier? Not infringing on their rights. There is ample evidence, recorded by Zionist pioneers themselves, that the native Palestinian population was welcoming of the first Zionist settlers. They worked side by side, and the Palestinians even taught them how to work the land, despite Zionists seeing the Palestinians as inferior and uncivilized. Wow, my fellow Americans, does this ring a bell for any of us? That sure feels familiar. Sure wonder where we've seen that before. Truly. Only after it became clear that these settlers did not come to live in Palestine as equals, but to become its landlords, as the Jewish National Fund chairman Menachem Ushkin, not saying that right, said, take a sip. I know, no wonder America supports them. Smallpox blankets, no. Did Zionism come to be perceived as a threat? For example, Zionist leadership went out of its way to sanction settlers employing or working with Palestinians, calling Palestinian labor an illness and forming a segregated trade union that banned non-Jewish members. Oh, looking more and more like apartheid. Another thing about Brits in Singapore are a bit random. There's a place called Queenstown named after Queen Elizabeth after her coronation. Also, America supports Israel because Israel is like them. Good summary, Lily. Lord Charlotte, where have I seen this one before? You probably get this a lot. I followed from one of your Chinese pronunciation videos. I love your personality. I'm not reading this properly at all, Fabio. Welcome to chat. This is my first time catching you live. I think it's super cool. You're educating yourself on this topic. You're just as awesome as I thought. Giving me too much credit, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. Thank you for checking out the Twitch stream. I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed the pronunciation videos. They're like a meme in this chat now. This is why the UK and US got called a global terrorist by Yemen. Deserved, actually. Oh my God. This is why whenever, I know I try not to cross this line too often, like we've said 3 times in chat already, but when the US criticizes China for things I'm not going to name because, again, for the safety of my family, try not to get too in the weeds on this. Fill in the blanks. You know what I mean? When the U.S. criticizes China for these things, which, again, I'm, not saying they don't deserve. Not going to finish that sentence. But when the U.S. does it, I'm sitting here all the time like, pot calling the kettle black. Like, if you really cared so much about human rights, would you not clean your own house first? Like, it just makes it feel really disingenuous. And then it means that their criticism, like, doesn't go anywhere because you can't throw stones in glass houses. You really hope, though, now I know the accents over the letters indicate the inflection of the sound. Yeah, I'm glad that helped. Oh, America knows, believe me. I think that what really gets my goat is the journalists, like the Western journalists who cover some things that I can't name. It's just the hypocrisy of it all. Yeah, America's very good at hypocrisy. They're just virtue signaling. Yeah, I guess it's virtue signaling, but it's also like banking on the fact that most people aren't going to call them on it somehow. But I feel like actually probably one thing that China is doing well-ish is like calling them on their bullshit. Like, I will never defend a tanky, but sometimes when they tear a Western journalist a new one, I'm like cheering. You know what I mean? Quietly. Still not gonna support them, but I'm sitting there like, it's like watching your two, can't get too specific. Watching two people you don't like fighting each other. You're like, yeah. Anyway. Consequently, as with every colonial situation, there was resistance by the native population. In this context, some of this resistance was aimed at the British and some at the Zionist settlers themselves. A prominent example of this is the 1936 revolt. What is this example? Matthew Hughes, Britain's pacification of Palestine, the British Army, colonial state, and Arab revolt. Also a paper published in the American Historical Review. Okay, it's the let them fight meme. Yeah. Miyazaki cigarette meme. America was a mistake. Yo, Miyazaki is not a good dude either, but I love that meme. This dude was just dunking on America and Britain. Well, I don't think that's new. Yemen is not the terrorists. It's the Houthis who are flinging missiles into the Red Sea. Is it? This is another situation where I'm not educated. It's another place I should get. I'm educated. I do see those, I guess, these terms, names mentioned all the time, and I'm always just like, what is this? We'll get there. It's like watching two problematic family members at Thanksgiving calling each other out and you're just spectating. Yeah, exactly. Okay. As with every colonial situation, there was resistance by the native population. In this context, some of this resistance was aimed at the British, some at the Zionist settlers themselves. A prominent example of this is the 1936 revolt. As colonial overlords, the British were exceptional record keepers. Wow, remind you of anyone else? Backed by empirical data, they compiled report after report in an attempt to monitor the tensions erupting all over Palestine. These reports showed that the distrust between the Palestinian and Zionist populations intensified after the British military administration of Palestine and the issuance of the Balfour Declaration. Read Harford, enjoy your lurk. Once again, the British getting involved in making everything worse. The Haycraft report, for example, concluded that despite Zionist accusations, the actions of the Palestinians were not at all motivated by anti-Semitism, but rather by the British military administration favoring the Zionist settlers to the detriment of the Palestinians. The Shaw report stated that there had been no such tension for nearly a century prior. There's two reports linked here. One of them goes here. That is an old-looking scan, all right. Ooh, it flips. Oh, it's archive.org, that's why. It's a fancy scan. Have you seen the machines they scan these books on, by the way? Slight sidebar. It's really cool. It's like this kind of a shape, and then you like nest the book in, and then it has like a special camera. And then some of them have fancy flipping arms. Some of them, if it's like a rare old book, usually there's like a person manually flipping every page. And then the way it scans is it's like this, right? And then there's another thing that's like clear plastic or glass above it, like this, and then it presses down onto it like this so that the page is flattened. So cool. If you ever get a chance to like visit one of the, I guess, institutions that does this kind of thing. Like a lot of rare books collections have these kinds of scanners. Very cool. Okay. By the end of the mandate, in spite of the Zionist efforts to purchase as much land as possible and maximize the number of European Zionist settlers, they barely controlled 5 to 6% of the land in mandatory Palestine and constituted only a third of the population. This population had only just arrived and did not amount to a clear majority in any region of Palestine. This population distribution would make establishing an exclusivist Zionist state in Palestine impossible. I heard someone say that out of 245 years of America's existence, they've been at war for 225 of it. Would that be, wait, 245? I can't do mental math right now. Okay, I was about to say, is that like after 1776? Is the math mathing? I don't think that's quite right. I mean, I guess it depends on your operational definition of at war. Like if you count all the times that we got involved or facilitated or supported other people's acts of war, whether that was like supplying like munitions or something, maybe? But like personally, like as a nation state at war, maybe not. If you use the definition of us did something violent in another country, that's a meaningless definition. Yeah, that's fair. Everyone is at war all the time then. Yeah. Yeah. I think I would want to see what the breakdown is, like how people arrived at that number. Oh, yes, Kami. Yeah, the book scanner is very cool. I wonder if I can find like a video to show you guys. It genuinely, it's like one of the, the question of how we archive and like digitize data, as well as the inverse of like how digital archives are not forever. And so we have to have like physical backups is like an ongoing thing that I really like to think about and read about. One of our mods, Moshi, is also very captivated by this question. We discuss it a lot. Okay. It is under these circumstances that calls for partitioning Palestine into an Arab Palestinian and Zionist Jewish state started to gain traction in some circles. I can imagine Ying's an archivist. I guess that is kind of where my like VTuber concept came from as well. In a suit? Why am I wearing a suit? I want like a cottagecore librarian aesthetic. I want to be wearing round glasses and a beret. Oh, I'm already wearing round glasses. I want to also be wearing a beret. I want a feather quill tucked over my ear and ink stains on my fingers and a loose knit cardigan that my wife made at home for me. That's the librarian. Maybe I have a new retirement dream. You're sparking something in me, Lily. I like it. Round brown hat with matching vest and a magnifying glass. I like that. I like that concept too. Beret, French coat. No. How dare you accuse me of being French? Just describe me as VTuber. I don't need this call out. All right. Things are beginning to get, well, they've been getting dark, but I feel like it's about to get bloody. The partition of Palestine. When partition is brought up, it is not surprising that most tend to think of the 1947 United Nations General Assembly resolution. This resolution recommended the partition of Palestine into Arab Palestinian state and a Zionist Jewish state at the end of the British Mandate. This was seen by some as a solution to the escalating tensions and violence during the Mandate years. Oh, a solution? However, this was not the first partition scheme to be presented. In 1919, for example, the World Zionist Organization put forward a partition plan. What do you think this links to? Birth of Israel, Myths and Realities. No ratings. That's interesting. Bench, if Ying was French, we wouldn't be here watching this. No. To be fair, Bench just said French core. French core. The partition plan included all the territory which would become mandatory Palestine, as well as parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Transjordan. That is not a term I'm familiar with. What does that mean? Transjordan? Sorry, this font is real tiny. The Emirate of Transjordan, officially known as the Emirate of Transjordan was a British protectorate again, of course it was the Brits. I don't know why I even questioned that, which remained as such until achieving formal independence in 1946. An area broadly comprising the areas of modern countries of Syria and Jordan. It became a no man's land following the 1920 Battle of Maysalun. Take a sip. During which period the British and neighboring Mandatory Palestine chose to avoid any definite connection between it and Palestine. Okay. A manhwa character. Oh, the Chinese book genre that TGCF is under, like Danmei. Is Ying a Danmei character? I guess it could work. It could work. I can see that. Yeah. French cottagecore, like the place the special door takes you in Howl's Moving Castle. I like that definition of French cottagecore. Thank you guys for helping me keep all this really lighthearted. I'm glad I decided to stream it. Because as much as I understand it's like, you know, it's a serious and dark topic, I also think that we would have trouble getting through it if we didn't have balancers. So I appreciate you all. Okay. At the time, the Jewish population of this proposed state would not have even reached 2 to 3% of the total population. Naturally, such a colonial proposal would be unjust regardless of the population disparity. I just thought of, like, Indonesia. But it is an indication of the entitlement of the Zionist movement in wanting to establish an ethnic state in an area they had no claim to and where they were so utterly outnumbered. That's actually these writers do not disappoint. How cozy this is with the music and Ying's voice narrating. I'm glad we are about as close to cozy as we can get with the topic at hand. Trying to use 100% of my brain trying to digest this stuff, and chat is helping. Yeah. I think we are sitting with it in a healthy way. And I appreciate that. Not every Twitch chat, guys, it would be capable of doing this. So thank you. The bulk of the Zionist population arrived in Palestine during the 4th and 5th Zionist immigration waves. Take a big gulp for that one. And look it up. Pronunciation for
Aliaod.
That doesn't seem right at all. I don't believe that one. This recording is not playing. I'm good. Seeing the 2 to 3%, looking at the land divisions now is crazy. I know. As the writers said, it's an indication of the entitlement of the Zionist movement of wanting to establish an ethnic state in an area they had no claim to, and they were so utterly outnumbered. Nuts. I mean, in the Americas, they had to do it with smallpox blankets. That's how outnumbered they were, right? The bulk of the Zionist population arrived in Palestine during the 4th and 5th Zionist immigration waves. Al-Aliyah, not saying that right. I already took a sip for that one. That means the majority of those demanding partition of the land had barely been living there for 20 years at the most. To make matters worse, the UN partition plan allotted approximately 56% of the land of Mandatory Palestine to the Zionist state. 56% of the land partitioned to 2 to 3% of the total population. I understand it was growing because the colonizers were colonizing, but still. Including most of the fertile coastal region. The whole idea of national Jewish state didn't gain much traction until after the trials of Nuremberg in the First Arab-Israeli War. Didn't get much traction, like, on a sort of from a global perspective, like legitimacy from a global perspective, or what? The math sure ain't mathin'. That's for real, Cornby. Okay. The Palestinians, of course, rejected this. They were being asked to give away most of their land to a minority of recently arrived settlers. The rejection of this ridiculous premise is still cited today as the Palestinians being intransigent and refusing peace. This is often negatively contrasted with the claim that the Yishuv agreed to the 1947 partition plan, which is portrayed as a showing of goodwill and a readiness to coexist with their Palestinian neighbors. While this may seem true on the surface, a cursory glance at internal Yishuv meetings paints an entirely different picture. Partition as a concept was entirely rejected by the Yishuv, citing the Birth of Israel book again. And any acceptance in public was tactical in order for the newly created Jewish state to gather its strength before expanding. If you ever have time, study the genocide of natives in South America, because the way they went about it was so different than us, but still horrible. Ooh, yeah. I have, like, Peruvian friends who have a lot to say about that, but I will definitely make a note of that. Thank you. Okay. Allies felt bad for ignoring genocide, so they decided to make it better by giving them their own state. Oh yeah, this'll solve it. Right? Hi, Sora. This is like me moving to the US and demanding I get about 6 of the states. Hey guys, I'm here. So like I get 6 states to myself, right? While addressing the Zionist executive, Ben-Gurion, leader of the Yishuv and Israel's first prime minister, re-emphasized that any acceptance of partition would be temporary. After the formation of a large army in the wake of the establishment of the state, we will abolish partition and expand. Oh, that's what he meant by temporary. We'll expand to the whole of Palestine. That's pretty clear, I feel like. Like, man said that himself. As a Peruvian, you're an honorary one? Yeah. No, I specifically have Peruvian friends. And then I would say my closest friend is actually a coworker. She's Japanese Peruvian. It's actually really interesting because she grew up in Tokyo, but she went to an international school. So she identifies more as Peruvian than as Japanese. But again, there's so many Japanese people like in Peru that it's almost a distinction she doesn't have to make. Yeah, she's probably the one I hear about the most from. Yeah. And Kami, you would think it's a surprising mix, but there's actually a lot of Japanese people in Peru. Yeah. And like East Asians in general. Like, oh my God, what's the lomo saltado is like a Chinese Peruvian dish. It's crazy because it's like one of the most popular, almost like an unofficial national dish of Peru, right? So I don't know. I think it's fun. It's fun when we think about countries that are not the United States of America. Yeah, the Japan-Peru history is, I don't super know it. I've been meaning to read up on it, but I am told it's interesting. Okay. Anyway, this is pretty clear cut. You know, at first when I read this, I was, I don't know, naive enough that I was like, oh, like the partition would be temporary, like they would, I don't know, reintegrate after. But no, definitely not. It's not reintegration, it's just complete takeover. This was not a one-time occurrence, and neither was it only espoused by Ben-Gurion. Internal debates and letters illustrate this time and time again. Even in letters to his family, Ben-Gurion wrote that a Jewish state is not the end, but the beginning, detailing that settling the rest of Palestine depended on creating, quote, an elite army. As a matter of fact, he was quite explicit. I don't regard a state and part of Palestine as the final aim of Zionism, but as a mean towards that aim. All right. Mentioned, Lobo Saltado mentioned, that's the low bar we have for Peruvian representation. That's hilarious, oceanic pears. I'm glad you're happy though. It's very charming. I think this name is pronounced, is it Chaim Weizmann? Prominent Zionist leader and the first president of Israel expected that, quote, partition might be only a temporary arrangement for the next 20 to 25 years. Wow, 3's getting drunker. So even ignoring the moral question of requiring the natives to formally greenlight their own colonization, had the Palestinians agreed to partition, they most likely still would not have had an independent state today. Despite what was announced in public, internal Zionist discussions make it abundantly clear that this would have never been allowed. However, the problems with the United Nations partition plan go even deeper than this. I keep forgetting it's a UN partition plan. It's like so insidious. To be clear, insidious is not the right word because they did it quite barefaced, but you know what I mean. The ramifications down the line many decades later are strong. To be clear, the resolution did not partition Palestine. It was in fact a partition plan, which was to be seen as a recommendation, and that the issue should be transferred to the Security Council. The resolution does not obligate the people of Palestine to accept it, especially considering the non-binding nature of UNGA regulations. I'm not as think as you drunk I am. As a mean toward that aim, Zionist world sweep, that apparently is their aim. What time were these discussions happening? What time is this article focusing on? This is currently in the era of the 1947 partition plan. So that's where we're at right now. Good question, Dragonman Wolf. Yes, Corn V is on top of it. Thank you. Okay. For its part, the Security Council attempted... What is this link to? Foreign Policy Journal. The myth of the UN creation of Israel. I'm just reading the URL. It's not loading, so we're going to go back. The Security Council attempted to find a resolution based on the UNGA recommendation, but could not arrive at a consensus, understandably. Many concluded that the plan could not be enforced. Thank you. Israel was unilaterally declared a state by Zionist leadership while the Security Council was still trying to arrive at a conclusion. The plan was never implemented. How does Zionist leadership feel like they can just declare Israel a nation state when they're 2 to 3% of the land they're occupying? Like, well, the answer is the British Empire behind them, I guess. But like, it's just nuts. It's like as a rhetorical question, like, how is it that they felt so emboldened? It's just nuts. I can confirm General Assembly resolutions are non-binding. I feel like most things that are called resolutions are non-binding in the world of politics. Which is why, to air out our local politics drama, because I used to be very intricately acquainted with our local politics here. There was one time we tried to get our city council to pass a resolution. Oh my God. And the school board to pass a resolution, sort of like announcing an unofficial like Harvey Milk Day. For those of you who are not American or unfamiliar with like queer history here, Harvey Milk was our first openly gay congressperson. And he was assassinated for it. And so we were trying to put a resolution out. I say we, I wasn't involved back then yet. And like resolutions are non-binding, you know, like it's truly just a gesture. It doesn't even really mean anything, but we were trying to get a resolution out and there were people who didn't want to do it. And we were like, it's kind of fishy. They're like, I'm not homophobic, but I don't want to pass this Harvey Milk resolution. Motherfuckers. I have not watched the Milk movie yet. I did hear about it though. Yeah. Cue the first Arab-Israeli war, Israel versus Jordan. I think Santi is bringing up the Arab-Israeli war like a lot, but I don't know about it. It's like saying, hey, we live in Manhattan. The U.S. belongs to us. Yeah, exactly. Aspen is worth a watch. Okay, I will. I don't know why I was going to say this, but I was going to say I will gird my loins and go watch the Harvey Milk movie. I think what I was trying to say is I will like get ready. I will get mentally prepared. Gird my loins. It's okay. We're having fun. I'll take a sip for that. If they're a politician and they're taking the standpoint that they're not against political assassinations. Get 'em, Pikachu! Anyway, let me make a note for the Harvey Milk movie. However, it is a Security Council resolution is a binding document, but it needs 10 votes to pass, and it needs none of the permanent powers vetoing. Yeah, Security Council stuff is really like all or nothing, is my understanding of it. Using gird my loins in casual speech. Wait, is it spelled? Yeah, gird is G-I-R-D. Just a note. I had to make sure though, because I also wasn't sure. Yeah, no, I think gird my loins is an appropriate use of the phrase, though, for the context. Because it's like when you're about to do something that's like hard. That's what it means to gird. Like I had to gird my loins to start stream because we're doing a pretty difficult topic today. Aurora, thank you for the resub. Happy 7 months. Monolith, I think I missed your resub earlier also. Thank you for 5 months. What in the social studies class did I walk into? Listen, we got to get learnt. We're here to get learnt because I was not learnt. I was not. Raw dog is casual speech. So what do you expect? Yeah. I think I'm introducing some great repurposings of existing casual phrases personally, since I have no respect for the English language. Anyway, gird my loins. What did I walk into? Oh my god, loins got caught by the autofilter. It was like loins is a sexual term. Trust. I will, as of this stream, start to say gird my loins in casual speech as well. I will. Girding loins, raw dogging audio. No. You don't raw dog the audiobooks. You raw dog the book by not listening to the audiobook. Izuna's, come on. Get with the program. I'm kidding. You can use it however you want. But get with the program. And keep my loins girded as often as possible. It is so difficult to pass the Security Council resolution. There's only been one unanimous vote in its history, and it was establishing the mission to monitor the Colombian peace process. Really? I actually didn't know that. The Security Council has only passed one resolution? Well, one unanimous vote. Loins, but not raw dogging? No, both. Porque no los dos. I'm suddenly understanding the implications of these terms. It's just casual speech. We're good. Use it however you want. Back to our social studies. However, there is an argument that although the plan never came to fruition, the UNGA recommendation to partition Palestine to establish a Jewish state conferred the legal authority to create such a state. That's actually... I mean, you can see it sort of giving it an air of legitimacy. Even if it's non-binding, the existence of the resolution makes it feel like it's real, right? And like what is or isn't real as far as human society is concerned is purely perception-based. So even though it was non-binding, it was still deeply problematic and a catalyst in the situation, which I think is a very fair point to make. Sloppy seconds land allocation. Oh my god, it's getting worse. It's getting more cursed. Gird your loins against book raw dogging. You know what? I'll take it. I'm in the auto-modding loins, but not raw dogging. We may have previously permitted the term raw dogging. It's possible. The mods and I have permitted a lot of words at this point. The reason why we have so many veto points is that we decided it was better to make sure everyone agrees on something than to do something where someone doesn't disagree, as it ultimately undermines the UN more so than what we have now. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have that many veto points, but to Santi's point earlier, like that means we've only had one unanimous vote. Saying something is real sounds funny for this stream. That's such a cursed pun. Is Israel real? Can mirrors be real if our eyes aren't real? Anyway, as a matter of fact, this can be seen in the declaration of the establishment of the State of Israel. Yeah, it makes sense that they would like take it and run with it, basically, even if it's not binding. This argument falls flat on its face when we take into account that the United Nations, both its General Assembly as well as its Security Council, do not have the jurisdiction to impose political solutions, especially without the consent of those it affects. There is nothing in the UN Charter that confers such authority to the United Nations. Indeed, this was brought up during the discussions on the matter. Furthermore, not only would this be outside the scope of the UN's power, it would, as a matter of fact, run counter to its mandate. This issue was raised by the UN Special Committee on Palestine itself. Gird your loins for this long quote. Quote, With regard to the principle of self-determination, although international recognition was extended to this principle at the end of the First World War, and it was adhered to with regard to the other Arab territories, at the time of the creation of the A mandates, it was not applied to Palestine, obviously because of the intention to make possible the creation of the Jewish national home there. Actually, it may well be said that the Jewish national home and the sui generis mandate for Palestine run counter to that principle. Cheers to that. I'm drinking because I don't know how to say this apparently Latin phrase. Isn't real. We should make that a hashtag. Now I'm just openly picking fights with this. I mean, have I not already been? I guess. That would be a great hashtag to pick a fight with the Zionists. Did you know, today I learned Israel legally prohibits ancestry testing. The more you think about it, the like funnier it is. You can't have ancestry testing because then all of the tests will say you're not Israeli. It's so motherfucking like, as funny as things can be in this very horrible situation, that shit is funny. It's funny. It's a big isn't real moment, truly. They're like, they allow genetic testing in terms of like paternity testing, right? But like, they don't allow ancestry testing. Yeah, and then they claim to be indigenous. I know. It's like, really. Anyway, what were we on? Oh yeah, no, the decorations. That's true. Yeah, that's. At least they're not sparkles, Aurora, right? The ethnic cleansing of Palestine. Here we go. Here's when things, I think, really take a nosedive. Yeah, they get tens of years. Those ancestry tests are going to be saying some mighty problematic stuff. Can't do birthright if you find out the birth. Not right! Oh my fucking god! That's so fucking funny. I'm pinning that. It's so funny. Holy shit. I'm crying. Okay. I'm sorry. The thing is, we're about to hit like the ethnic cleansing portion, so I should probably stop laughing at this point, but I appreciated that deeply. Still myself. Let's get grounded. I get the feeling this next session is going to be dark. The demographic realities in Palestine had always troubled the Zionist movement, despite their consistent sloganeering of, quote, a land without a people, for a people without a land. They were acutely aware of the reality on the ground, which is that it was not a land without people. Even from its earliest days, Zionist leaders spoke about removing the native population to make room for the colonists who would utilize the land in much more, quote, civilized and, quote, advanced ways. You can read more about this here. What is it? Oh, they have this is under their one of their myths pages. Okay. Maybe we should not have drunk. I have barely drunk. This is what, 4% alcohol. Good. Towards the end of the mandate, it would become clear that there would be no voluntary exodus of the native Palestinians. I mean, was it not always clear that there would be no voluntary exodus of the native Palestinians? It is within this context, I mean, hold on, the origins of the word exodus, do those not go back to like anti-Semitism? Like, I think the thing that numbs my mind, numbs the mind the most about this whole situation is that like, this is a people who have been subject to such extreme persecution only to do it again, do it harder to other people. Like It minds my brain. It does. It minds my brain. That's how unbrained I am about all this. I must note here that Judaic ancestry is determined through the mother side of the family. Yes. Yeah. That is... I always forget that part. Mind-boggling. Suffering does not make one moral. Suffering does not make one virtuous. Absolutely. Well said. Is that the origin of the word exodus, actually? Because that's where I learned of the word exodus, was like the Jewish exodus. Oh, well, it's a Greek word, but... I guess it's not the absolute origin. It's just where I learned it. Oh, but the story of the Exodus is central in Judaism. It is recounted daily. Sorry, let me show you guys what I'm looking at. I like Googled the word Exodus to find the origin. Here we go. The story of the Exodus is central in Judaism. It is recounted daily in Jewish prayers and celebrated in festivals such as Passover. Early Christians saw the Exodus as a typological prefiguration. What the? Sit. Of resurrection and salvation by Jesus. The narrative has also resonated with various groups in more recent centuries, such as among the early American settlers. Fleeing religious persecution in Europe. I guess thinking about this now, it does actually kind of make sense that like one exodus would beget another exodus and so on. Because when a people is displaced, there is a chance they would, in the process of being displaced, like displace another people. Which is exactly what is happening, like, / happened with Palestine and happened with Native Americans as well. Is there a connection between how Zionism was cooking before World War I and World War II and trying to make isn't real a thing? I think that was in chapter 1, Akui. If you want to go back to that, here, I'll drop the 101. Here you go. If you look here, I'm pretty sure they covered that in chapter 1. It was like the first, it was like basically the end of the Ottoman Empire. Okay. Where were we? Oh, right. We were on the word exodus. I got a little caught up on it. Because it's so tightly tied to the Judaism context. It's like ridiculous to see it in this context. It is within this context that Plan D, a name I can't pronounce, I'll take a sip, was developed by the Haganah High Command. Take another sip. Although it was adopted in May 1948, the origins of this plan go back a few years earlier. Oh, there are a lot of names I can't say. I'm really sorry. This person reportedly started working on it in 1944. This plan entailed the expansion of the borders of the Zionist states well beyond partition, and any Palestinian village within those borders that resisted would be destroyed and have its inhabitants expelled. This included cities that were supposed to be part of the Arab Palestinian state after partition, such as Nazareth, Acre, and Leda. I will pin that. That's a good point. Thank you, Paris. Boop. It's not letting me pin. Here. We're reading from this website. I forgot I could use pins for this. Thank you for reminding me. Boom. Can I pin that? Nice. Okay. Ben Zohar, the biographer of Ben-Gurion, wrote that, quote, in internal discussions, in instructions to his men, the old man, Ben-Gurion, demonstrated a clear position. It would be I didn't mean to click that. It would be better that as few a number as possible of Arabs would remain in the territory of the Jewish state. That is one way to phrase it. Although it could be argued that Plan D did not outline the exact villages and cities to be ethnically cleansed in an explicit way, it was clear that various Yishuv forces were operating with its instructions in mind. It is important to stress that the ethnic cleansing of Palestine began before the 1948 war, and before even a single regular Arab soldier set foot in Palestine. This is important to understand because many still erroneously argue that the Nakba, Arabic for catastrophe, was a byproduct of the Arab War on the fledgling Israeli state. That's fair. Approximately 300,000 Palestinians had been expelled through ethnic cleansing campaigns before the onset of the war or the end of the mandate. These campaigns were accompanied by massacres and war crimes, even against villages that were neutral and had non-aggression pacts with the Zionist Yishuv. The ethnic cleansing of the village of Deir Yassin demonstrates this perfectly. Oh, I think this is the myths page again. Okay, we will get to the myths. I actually think we're going through this a little faster than I expected. Santi, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate our resident Ying Flamat giving us context. I recommend you read on the Arab-Israeli wars, the Suez Crisis, and the Lebanese Civil War. They set the stage to closest we got to a peaceful settlement, the 1992 Oslo Accords. Okay, I will take a note of that. Let me just put that here. Okay, thank you, Santi. Have a good night. All right. For many reasons, the Arab states, mainly Transjordan, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. Oh, Raven, thank you for the stretch redeem. I appreciate it. And Echoing Kayan, thank you for the recommendations. That's very helpful. Thank you, Professor. I guess we've lost both of our international relations people now. The Arab states were not interested in a war. Keep stretching with me. However, after the monstrous ethnic cleansing campaigns against the Palestinians, they finally reluctantly intervened. However, an aspect that is often ignored is the inter-Arab rivalries and disunity that were among the chief causes for the intervention in 1948. Barely coming out from under colonialism themselves, their actions during the war showed that they never really joined the war with eliminationist intent, as the popular narrative goes. The Jordanians were more interested in acquiring the West Bank as a stepping stone to their real ambition, which was Greater Syria. As a matter of fact, there is ample evidence of collusion between the Israelis and Jordanians during the 1948 war, with deals under the table pretty much gifting parts of the West Bank to Transjordan in return for not interfering in other areas. Okay, so there was like disunity, basically exacerbating the situation, or rather causing a lack of support, maybe. It's so depressing what's happening. When Ukraine attack started, everybody said, I know World War III might start with money to help Ukraine, but when it's Palestine or a non-Caucasian country being attacked, everybody turns a blind eye or doesn't raid funds. Yeah. My org sent an email to not get into any debates on the matter. Like at work? That's really rough. Our company is tricky. I've been grappling with the same issue of like how to deal with this at work. Part of the reason is we have an office in Tel Aviv, or near Tel Aviv. So we have quote unquote Israeli coworkers. Like there's people who identify as Israeli, which is literally most of what we're talking about here. I don't know if this is a conversation I want to have with them, right? So, I know it really sucks that they're explicitly telling you not to discuss it. Like that's kind of that's painful to be explicitly prohibited from discussing it at all. I think in our case they did a very, like kind of side-eye, passive-aggressive kind of like don't start shit, but they weren't very explicitly like don't talk about Palestine, because we probably would have had their guts for garters if they tried to say that to us. It's a top 5 bank global. Yeah, that tracks. I'm in fintech, so consumer fintech. So it's not like massive scale fintech type, banking just stuff. But it's definitely tricky. It's 6 a.m. This is the talk I'm watching you in after a month of following. Yeah, things escalate here. We're nerdy scholar types. No, I like to think that the reason I've continued streaming, even though I said I wanted to quit content professionally, and this is just a hobby now, is because I feel like we have a really good chat here. Like, I think when I first started on Twitch, I never would have imagined that I would be able to come on Twitch and do a stream about the history of Palestine. Like, I just didn't think that I never would have expected that to even be possible. And the fact that like we haven't had a single problem with a person in chat this entire stream, that's impressive. like really impressive. So I appreciate you all. I know I've said it like a few times already, but I don't want to stop saying it because I think it's important to recognize that like this is a special space. There's a reason I've worked so hard to preserve it, and I appreciate you guys doing the same thing. Anyway, your company technically has Israel as a customer. Oh, like the state of Israel. Oh shit. That's rough. Duad, good night. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you spending time here. We can fix that. Rabble. Is that like to rabble rouse? It's really funny. I have a Jewish VP and a Palestinian higher up, so it's been part of some conversations. Wow, that's a complicated one. I hope your Jewish VP and Palestinian higher ups have had respectful conversations about it. I would like to identify as a problem. Wait, I just saw a posh Brit redeem from my login had been taken. Hello. Or rather, hello. Is this posh enough for you? I think sometimes I slip a little in this accent, so do call me out. Call me out if it happens. But over enunciation and the drawl of the vowels is usually how I arrive at this accent. So with a bit of practice, it may come more naturally. It's good though. This needs to be discussed without offending any party. Even a pub told us, mixed group, to stop discussing this as it's making customers uncomfortable, and told us to go in London. In London? In southern Britain? OMG, I'm British. Lol, stop it. If we need a problem. I'm sorry, it's a redeem. I gotta do it. Sorry. If it helps, we also have a Cali girl, like, redeem, so it's fine. We could bring up the pineapple pizza topic. You're right. They mainly agree. Oh, excuse me. I dropped the accent for a moment there. A Porsche Valley girl. A Porsche Valley girl. How would that work exactly? Would it be a chav? Okay, 3 strong. They mainly agree on the fact that this is a massacre and there are too many innocent people paying a price they shouldn't have to pay. Fortunately, my VP isn't a Zionist. That's reassuring. I think it is important to remember that, like, not all Jewish people are Zionists. I would even hesitate to say that a majority are. If you all have seen the tweet going around with the photo of the 2 women, one of whom is Palestinian and the other is Jewish, and they hold the signs that say, like, I'm Palestinian and I cannot return to my home. But I think the Jewish woman has something with, like, I'm Jewish and I can return to a home that, like, doesn't belong to me. They phrased it much better than I could, but that's how it works. I cannot tack the Mandarin Chinese on top of the posh Brit. I will clarify that right now. I can't do both at the same time. Sorry, I'm having a very hard time taking anything you say seriously with this accent. Is it not convincing enough? Is that the problem? Am I just bad? Well, actually, no, never mind. Don't while reading important stuff, just in case. Oh, that's right. Can we, 3, could you help me refund Pear's Chinese redeem? That's also true because we're reading in English, so I can't exactly, nor can I do a live translation of this kind of content into Chinese. I lack the vocabulary. Okay. I just don't respect British people. I respect that. I'm not channeling my inner colonialist. I'm not colonial enough. My posh Brit accent isn't colonial enough. What does that even mean? Wouldn't the colonial British accent just be an American? Wouldn't that just be an American accent? Probably I can't also do the Valley Girl. I can't do both. Haven't been in a while. What happened to Ying? Well, so there was a posh Brit redeem just about a few minutes ago, and I've been having some fun with it. But Grubobly just also redeemed Valley Girl, so now I'm considering how I might be able to layer them together. I do believe that there's a possibility. Maybe it's just like if I add the inflections and then I talk with the vocal fry, but like with the vowel drawl of the British English accent and then do a little bit of the vowel push, then perhaps it could work together. Is this working? Kind of. That's my own interpretation, personally. I'm getting there. Okay. Because, like, I think the British TikTok girlies kind of talk like this. Like, it kind of works. Imagine if this became my forever accent. How would that even work? Like, if I just got heart stuck saying this? Oh my god, I would, like, show up at work the next day and be like, hello, everyone. How was your weekend? Did you do anything fun? Somehow this makes me take you more seriously. How is that possible? I guess I am that much of a British disrespecter. Oh, because this is disrespecting the British accent. Okay, I can kind of see that. They are West London posh chavs, by the way, for the majority of what? The posh chavs? The majority of whom? Ying went on vacation to Britain, or as they call it, a holiday, and now she speaks like this. That's what happened. I do think layering these two together was quite fun. Thank you for the challenge. Have we tried this before? I don't think so. I think this is fresh. I think we've tried the Valley Girl with the Mandarin, but I don't think... Oh, my current accent just sounds like a West London posh chav. Maybe if you try sounding like an older lady with the accent, but not if it's not as a Valley Girl. What do you mean like this? To become more of a posh Brit? More of a posh Brit, like I'm narrating a nature documentary. The vocal fry is different, more dignified. It brings an aura of weightiness, even though we have no respect for the British accent and English language in general. This is what you get if the Brits colonized California in the 1980s. I think I've heard uwu plus either posh Brit or Valley Girl. Okay. Let your inner David Attenborough out. The urge to randomly redeem the uwu. Spare me. Okay, I think we've done enough. Yo-Yo Lloyd, hello. Wait, Yo-Yo, is that you? Do you have a new account? Are you streaming? Unclear. This might be someone I don't know. If so, I apologize. But welcome. Thanks for the follow. Is he becoming a history teacher? What's going on here? No. I'm a history learner. You're my fellow students. We're in a seminar. This is your new account. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I have any VIP badges left. Yeah, we do. Welcome, Yo-Yo. I might have to unvip your other one. I'll check. Why can't I chat? Am I followers only? I wasn't sure. Okay. Welcome, Yo-Yo. We are, for those of you just joining us, I'm sorry you caught me in the middle of a Valley Girl stacked with a posh Brit redeem, but that was fun. Thank you, Grabably, and my login has been taken for the redeems. We're going to go back to the serious business now, which is that we were reading through a website called Decolonize Palestine. You can check the pinned if you want to see the website yourself, because we're probably not going to make it through the whole thing today. But I wanted to stream this week because I've been gone for so long, but at the same time, I'm partially joining the global strike this week. So I was like, if I'm going to break strike by streaming, I should at least do it for a related cause. And the thing that I have not done is properly educated myself on the history of the entire situation. So that's why we're here. Do we have a checklist of all the permutations of accent redeems? It's a good question. I don't think so. Anonymous gifter, thank you for the gift sub to Yo-Yo Lloyd. Who did that? Was that 3? It could be. Thank you for using the Ying motes. I hope you enjoy them. Okay. Are we mentally ready to jump back in? Because we're in the ethnic cleansing portion now. So it's getting, if it hasn't already been very painful, it is about to get more so. Okay. So the Arab states were not interested in war. I think we just read through this whole thing about how there was no like Arab state unity, basically. So as a result, the ethnic cleansing things just they just happened like unopposed. The Egyptians joined in an attempt to counter the Hashemite. Oh, sorry. And we are also taking sips of our alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverages whenever I can't pronounce a word. I need to cook breakfast and get my boring rat race job going. Ichi, I am rooting for you, and I'm in solidarity at my boring rat race job too. Good luck out there, buddy. Have a good one. Enjoy your breakfast. For these reasons, the Arab armies generally intervened in the territories of the Mandate destined to be part of the Palestinian Arab state according to the 1947 partition plan, and with very few exceptions stayed away from the area designated to be part of the Zionist Jewish state, even though the partition plan was not a binding resolution. Just as a reminder. Yes, support for Palestine and Palestinians played a large role in the legitimization of such interventions, but they were never the real reason behind them. As per usual, when it comes to international relations, interests are always at the center of any maneuver, regardless of these past noble and altruistic motivations. What were they motivated by then? Despite their propaganda and rhetoric, the Arab states sought different secret opportunities to avoid and end the war with Israel. Some offers went as far as to agree to absorb all Palestinian refugees. These were all rejected by Israel with the goal of maximizing its land grabs. What? Oh, it's under myths as well. For example, when it became clear that Israel would ignore all negotiations regarding partition and unilaterally declare its independence, there were enormous efforts behind the scenes aimed at avoiding war. Let me look at this one. Oh, it's Birth of Israel again. Not to mention ending it early when it did eventually break out. These efforts were heavily oh, here we are. Tag yourselves. Enjoy your lurk, yo-yo. Okay. These efforts to end the war were heavily sponsored by the United States, who asked in March 1948 that all military activities be ceased and asked the Yishuv to postpone any declaration of statehood and to give time for negotiations. I wonder what they wanted out of this. Outside of Abdullah of Transjordan, the Arab states accepted this initiative by the United States. However, it was rejected by Ben-Gurion, Mr. Zionist-in-chief, who knew that any peaceful implementation of the partition plan meant that the refugees he had expelled earlier would have a chance to return, not to mention that the war would offer him a chance to conquer the lands he coveted outside the partition plan. Motherfucker thinks he's like Julius Caesar. This power trip this man is on. I won't. I'm Canadian. Not that I have anything to be proud of right now. Fair. There might not actually be that many Americans in chat. I reactivated my Facebook account for sole purpose of spamming the feed with Palestine stuff. I respect that so much. Influence in the region or for oil? Oh, I see that. I can see that, brawler. Welcome to chat also. Hello. Knock knock. It's the US. So if I got swatted right now. Ooh, knock on wood. Hope no one here tries to swat me. This followed a long series of Zionist rejection of overtures by the native Palestinians. In 1928, for example, the Palestinian leadership voted to allow Zionist settlers equal representation in the future bodies of the state, despite them being a minority who had barely just arrived. That's like such a huge gesture. This was faced with Zionist rejection. Even after this, in 1947, the Palestinians suggested the formation of a unitary state for all those living between the river and the sea. From the river to the sea, to replace the mandate, to no avail. There were many attempts at coexistence, but this simply would not have benefited the Zionist leadership, who never intended to come to Palestine to live as equals. And here we are back to the original definition of the settler colonial state. So to summarize, they were like, knock knock, we'd like to be roommates. And then the Palestinians were like, that's kind of fucking weird, but I guess we can be. I mean, you got it tough too. We can be roommates. Yeah. And then they were like, we actually had no intention of being roommates. This is our house now. Get the fuck out, bitch. So okay. That's my very disrespectful summary. By the end of the war, 800,000 Palestinians would be ethnically cleansed from approximately 530 villages. A lot of fucking people. And from approximately 530 villages and communities. Israel would be established on the rubble of these villages, and their settlers would come to call the emptied abodes that once housed Palestinian families home. I think like the thing that really drove this particular point home to me was there was a thread that somebody had written about how their grandmother, it was like posting photos of their grandmother in front of their old house that was in Palestine, and then the story of how they were like they had welcomed in the I guess the Jewish people who were showing up, they had Jewish guests in the house. And then one day when they were out, like essentially the people who were supposed to be their visitors, like kicked them out of their own house. And I just remember reading that thread, like, because it was very early on in like the recent situation where I wasn't educated yet, right? And I remember reading the thread like incredulous. I was like, there's no way this fucking happened. Like, this is so preposterous. And then it's the thread that made me Google things, you know? And I was just like, I just remember like reading about the displacement of Palestinians by, I guess, nowadays Israeli people. And I was just like, I can't believe this is real and I didn't know about it. That's actually so nuts. To this day, these 800,000 and their descendants are still scattered all over the world in refugee camps, and Israel refuses their right to return home. The ethnic cleansing operations continued well into the 1950s, years after the end of the war. Source things from Twitter and then trace it back before sharing it on Facebook. Yeah, honestly, I haven't been on Facebook enough to know whether there has been much posting there. I haven't seen it all. Achan says, what makes it worse is this happened way back during the 1940s to 50s when population was much less. It's not an exaggeration to say almost an entire nation was wiped out of existence. Yeah. And that it happened so fucking fast by so few people. Such a minority, right? Even if the tweets are from experts but unsourced, I use those to identify good search terms and try to link them with stuff that is recent dates. Yeah, exactly. Because so much of it is like, what's the word for, like, it's a story, anecdotal type stuff. Like, not everything can be linked to a solid historical source. That doesn't mean it's because these are the first person testimonials, right? If you are the person who experienced it, there is no one who can testify to it being true other than you yourself, the person who experienced it. So how do you validate a first person source? Anyway, put down the reading a bit to stretch and hydrate. Biku, I appreciate that. Let's hydrate. I still have some tea left. Let's do a shoulder stretch. I know Facebook has fallen out of relevance to the younger generation. For Filipinos like me and 40-year-olds like me, it is unfortunately a primary communications and community hub. I don't think that's necessarily unfortunate. I used to be a Facebook power user. I think I was driven off, not because Facebook, the platform, was particularly getting worse or anything, but more so, long story short, I ran a political campaign and Facebook became very inhospitable after that, so. Let's just see. People came for me and I was done. I was done with those people. Okay. The post-war armistice line would come to be known as the Green Line, and it marked the de facto borders of the Israeli state, though official borders have never been declared. The areas that Israel did not conquer, I should say isn't real, did not conquer, i.e. the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, would come to be ruled by Jordan and Egypt, respectively. It is estimated that around 80% of the Palestinian population within the Green Line were expelled. The remaining 20% would live under martial law for decades to come and have their communities turned into segregated, heavily controlled enclaves surrounded by barbed wire. These early years would prove formative to the discriminatory regime of laws that govern Israel to this very day. This period will be discussed in the next part of our introduction series. Okay. And we have arrived at part 3. I was right. We were not going to get through all of this. Okay, so my proposal is, since we're 2.5 hours into stream, we've covered a lot of the history. We're coming into, well, arguably it's all recent history. It's within the last century. Coming into 1948. So we're going, there's part 3, 4, 5, and 6. Because I want to get to the myths page. Although there's a lot also. Let's jump to myths. I feel like we have a solid grounding now, and I have enough to keep reading on my own. Maybe we'll do one more stream before the strike ends. Hold on. What's the global strike days? I thought it was like 21st to 28th, was it? Yeah, January 21st to 28th. So I was hoping to get one more stream in this weekend, so we can keep going a little bit. But for this stream, I feel like we've done enough like history deep dives to get started. So let's hit some of the myths pages, because now I'm curious. Because I think like this is clearly structured as a like these are the talking points that Zionists bring up. And so I think it's like useful information, so I don't want to miss it. Okay, let me reposition the window a little to fit the new content. Hold on. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Okay. If you talk about Israel, Palestine, Hamas on Twitter, be prepared to be challenged in good faith or harassed by bad faith agents. If you do it on Facebook, you have a captive audience of people who are nominally your friends and family. They'll tend to feel more entitled to complain at you. Oh, yes, I do have a Discord. Welcome. I don't mention the Discord too much. I think Twitch chat is probably safe, but the few times I've like linked it on my YouTube channel have led to just disaster. So it's like minorly stealth. Not to the Twitch chat. It is not stealth to the Twitch chat, because we mentioned it a lot here. I will say I trust you all a lot more than my YouTube audience. I'm just gonna out and say that, yeah? Yeah, we had a lot of weirdos freaking joining when I linked it to my YouTube, which was unfortunate. I was really hoping that would not be the case. But it's much easier to moderate on Twitch than it is to moderate on YouTube, so I guess I'm not surprised either that was the problem. Okay, let's choose some myths. I'm just gonna go after my own curiosities. So let's read through some of these titles. Myth: Palestinians sabotaged the peace process. Myth: The United Nations created Israel. I feel like we covered that. Myth: The two-state solution is the only way forward. I'm actually curious about that. Let me open that in a new tab. Myth: Had Palestinians accepted the 1947 partition plan, they would have had a state by now. We also kind of covered that. Curse you, pronunciation videos. And that one Duolingo video. Myth: Israel has always sought peace. Myth: Israel is a democracy. Myth: Israel holds itself responsibility for its human rights violations. I almost want to laugh. Myth: All Israelis are created are equal. I went full American just now. Myth: Israel is not an apartheid state. Let's take a look at that one. Myth: Israel was created as penance for the Holocaust. I guess I do see this talking point. Myth: Palestinians use watermelons as symbols during the first Intifada. Well, I have seen the watermelon around a lot. I'm employing it myself in my Twitter Twitter display name. Okay, there's like 4 pages of this, so bear with me for a moment. The two-state solution is dead for decades now. Yeah. If there's one thing I actually knew about, it was why the two-state solution was dead. In 2007, the majority of Israelis supported a two-state solution. After October 7th, it's 13% in the latest polling. All right. You can't be anti-Semitic if you support Israel. Israel lost its soul after the 1967 occupation. Israel is defending itself. The IDF is the most moral army in the world. Palestinians fake Israeli atrocities, hire crisis actors. That's what they call it? Bollywood? The fuck? I'm not even going to grace that with any more attention. The Palestinian Authority subsidizes terrorism. The Mufti helped inspire the Holocaust. There's a media bias against Israel. Israel made the desert bloom. Oh, that's what they were talking about earlier. The Gaza Strip is no longer occupied. They sure wish that were true. It was the Duolingo video that introduced me to Ying. I think actually most people here got here because of Duolingo. Oh my god, Biku! I'm not gonna read that out loud, but I see you. From the river to the sea is a call for genocide, huh? Palestinian Christians are leaving due to Palestinian Muslims and the PA. Anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Obviously not true. There was no ethnic cleansing because the population increased. Okay, maybe later. The War of 1948 was inevitable self-defense for Israel. Palestinians sold their land to the obviously not. Palestinians were economic migrants who moved to Palestine after Zionist-induced prosperity. The ethnic cleansing of the biggest thing for this myths page for me, honestly, is like, wow, people say that. The ethnic cleansing of Palestine was an accident. It was an accident of war. Oopsies. Just bombed every single hospital in Gaza. Hand slipped. Jesus fucking Christ. Israel was outnumbered and outgunned in 1948 war. Israel or any other state has a right to exist. Palestinians left their communities based on Arab orders during the Nakba. War of 1967 was self-defense. Yeah, it turns out people be saying things. Zionism is not colonialism, just Jewish self-determination. My people were here before your people. Then allow ancestry tests. Only Zionists were called Palestinians during the Mandate period. The name Palestine was a Roman invention. The Mandate of Palestine had a Star of David on its flag. A land without a people for a people without a land. Falafel, hummus, zatar are Israeli. Bro, the Turkish people will eat you alive. Palestinians are Arabs that arrived in the 7th century, and the Greeks. All the Mediterranean countries. Myth, the conflict is ancient. Myth, Palestinian identity is fake. Myth, the Palestinian question is about religion. Myth, it's just so incredibly complicated. Okay, I picked out 3 myths. We'll read these 3, and I think that's a good stopping point. Wow, an accident. Did you get the plate number of that bomber plane? Oh no. Oh no. If my people were here before your people is the justification for displacement or genocide, then let's talk about the Americas. Yeah. That's literally the Zionist version of Manifest Destiny. It really is. Ha ha! The two-state solution is the only way forward. Myth. It has been over 25 years since the signing of the Oslo Accords and the formal adoption of the two-state solution by both parties. Oh, it's actually a pretty long page, so we'll read like a little bit. The Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, and Israel. After all this time, it cannot be claimed that Palestinians and Israelis are closer to a solution today than they were on the eve of signing the interim agreement in 1933. A Palestinian state has yet to materialize, and living conditions continue to deteriorate. One does not need to be a historian to realize, to realize that the circumstances discussed in the original 1993 declaration have seen significant changes. The two-state solution, which was cemented internationally after Oslo as the solution, is facing growing skepticism. That's one way to phrase it. Yet despite this, the holy mantra of 2 states for 2 peoples remains ever present. Where we at? I was walking a long distance and couldn't get a watch. No worries. We're in the myths section now. So we're on the myths page of the two-state solution. So myth, the two-state solution is the only way forward. And then the purpose of this page is to debunk the myth. Oh boy, I was in the complicated camp before. Oh my God, you and me both. I hadn't done my 20-minute of Googling. Anyway, it truly, oh my God, it's literally 20 minutes of Googling. Like, assuming you aren't approaching it from a Zionist perspective, it's a 20-minute Google. I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, I think obviously it takes more than 20 minutes to like solidify and deepen your understanding, but like, I think it takes only 20 minutes to be like, oh, this is a very black and white situation, actually. Yeah. But what exactly is meant by partition, and why is it put forward as the only way forward? When partition is brought up in the historical sense, it is not surprising that most tend to think of the 1947 UNGA resolution. However, this was not the first partition scheme to be presented. In 1919, for example, the World Zionist Organization put forth a partition plan, which included all the historical Palestine, parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Transjordan. At the time, the Jewish population of this proposed state would not have even reached 2 to 3% of the total population. To be fair, I think most people are either because they don't know enough to talk about it, or they don't want to take a stance because they fear of confronting people they usually get along with. Yeah, I can see that. But I feel like the longer you spend pondering this and immersing yourself in the topic, the more you're like, maybe I don't want to be friends with people who would openly disagree with me on this. Like, if they're staying silent because of ignorance, I honestly can't respect that. But like, it's marginally more tolerable than people who know the situation or think they know the situation and like have chosen a side, and it's to side with the Zionists. Like, I don't want to be friends with Zionists. I think once that clicked in my head, I was like, I will say whatever the fuck I want. Like, actually, maybe I don't want Zionists in my audience. Maybe I don't want Zionists in my community. Maybe I don't want Zionist friends. I think that's pretty solid. Yeah. You mentioned something the other day that made me go, yeah, why am I not doing anything? If I do something, people will let me know if I do something wrong. Yeah. I think, okay, there's a thing here where I think people are afraid to make mistakes. And I absolutely get that, especially from a content creator influencer perspective, or you have a sizable following. Like we have 121 people here right now, and it's not a small amount of people. That's a lot of people. Even if it's down a lot from my peak, it's a lot of people still. And I can see why it would be stressful to say something out of ignorance that would get you quote unquote canceled. Like, I understand that, but I still don't think, if anything, I feel like that would be a great motivation to get educated, because you wouldn't want to say something that would be ignorant in front of so many people. But especially on this kind of an issue, right? Like, there's many issues that I think it's fine to never look into. This is not one of those issues. This is an issue that impacts, I think, way too many people. So that's my personal opinion, but that's where I'm standing. Yeah. CC landscape makes people bad for making a mistake or lack of action. Yeah. I think it'd be better if people encourage others to do things because it's cool to do and it can help. Yeah. Actually, I also think I saw a tweet the other day that was like, why is it that so many of the tweets I'm seeing, or like the energy of some of these activists on social media, is that we're shaming people who are not taking part? Like, I understand the impulse, but I also think the positive push of like showing people that this is the cool thing to do is so much more productive and so much less, importantly, less destructive to our social fabric. Which, like, say whatever you want about tone policing or whatever, but tone matters. If there's one thing I learned while I was being a community organizer and being involved in local politics, is that like the way you approach a conversation, if you can, show people that you're coming from a place of like kindness and understanding and like a willingness to listen, that people will open up to you. Not everyone, but people are more likely to open up to you. I just wish that was the tone that we approached. And I understand, like, we don't want to, people don't deserve to be coddled or babied. I get that. But like, for those of us who have the capacity to coddle and baby, I'll coddle and baby. I'll do it. Same shit happened with BLM, right? Like, I have the capacity as someone who is not directly impacted by anti-blackness in America. I have the capacity to coddle and baby people. So why not have me do that instead of my black friends, right? Like, it just makes sense to me. I don't see why not. If we bring people into the movement, no matter how we have to do it, short of, things that are antithetical to the cause, I just don't see why not. It costs me a little bit of energy. I think it is worth that cost. So, yeah, I get the fear of saying the wrong thing. I get it. But that's why we get educated. That's why we spend a lot of time, if we have to, immersing ourselves and learning. I think what people need to do more of is like, or rather, I'm not going to phrase it like that. I want to phrase it like, I think what I would appreciate seeing more from CCs is like an admission of ignorance, right? Like, hey, I'm not very educated on this. I'm not saying this to excuse myself from inaction or lack of, speaking out on this subject. I'm saying that as a starting point. And I'm saying that because the first step to knowing about something is to not know about something. You have to first know what you don't know, right? So, yeah. I don't know. For me, that's where it starts. The one thing that made a fairly apolitical guy I know turn the corner against Israel is the organ harvesting. What? I didn't know about that. I'm gonna look that up. What the fuck? If you're an ally, put your privileged boots on and educate in place of the oppressed. Yeah, I like that phrasing, Kayan. That's what this stream is for, right? To educate. Yeah, it's for me to educate myself, and then whoever wants to come along for the ride, I've, invited you all to join our little classroom here, which is that's not a push, right? It's not a, you are a bad person for not knowing about this. It's a pull. It's a pull instead of a push. It's a, you know what? You don't know about this? Neither do I. Let's spend some time together, spend 3 hours on stream together, reading and discussing. I think it's valuable work. I think I would be so happy if I saw more content creators do that. Did you hear that an Israeli minister is considering dropping a nuke on Gaza? Is that like, is there any chance that it could actually happen? Is that like a real risk? Or is that just them talking? That's terrifying. Is that a real thing? And by real, I don't mean like the Israeli minister is considering it. I mean like, is there a chance it could actually happen? Because that would be... Then people should really be talking about it like they talked about Ukraine. Anyone claims they're for tolerance but advocates and supports cancel culture are hypocrites. Yes, I do agree. I wish in general that our culture was more willing, maybe not to forgive, but to understand that like we're all, you know, dipshits about different things, and then we all have the capacity to get better. Like I really wish, especially as an abolitionist, especially where you don't believe in like prisons because like you believe in rehabilitation, right? Like if you're gonna say that, then you should also not buy into cancel culture. Like this is very obvious to me. But anyways, that's a discussion for another time. At least a third of Israeli ministers are insane. Israel has nukes, but it will not happen. And the reason why is at least a third of Israeli ministers are actually insane is because Bibi had to bring them in to get his government, and Bib is already crazy. You calling him Bib? Imagine how insane the people to the right of him are. Yeah. Oh. Okay. I guess it's reassuring in a kind of shitty way. I don't think it could be because the area is literally the size of Jersey. There's no way to avoid the fallout for both parties. I mean, there are different sizes of nukes. What is this? Israeli minister, Middle East Monitor. Is this a reputable news source? Israeli minister renews call for striking Gaza with... Wow, look at this banner image. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, thanks for the article link. That minister wasn't a part of the defense apparatus, so it's bad they said it. Israel has a lot of foot in mouth moments, but that minister also has no standing in anything they will do. Okay, that is reassuring. Thank you for your level of knowledge. I know they're not even hiding it and people still defend them. That's such a good point. They're like open. Well, there's a few things that they're not open about, right? Like twisting the narrative on like Hamas is a terrorist group. Okay. Where were we? I know we went on a bit of a sidebar there, but I think it was a necessary sidebar, so thank you for bearing with me. Oh, right, we were talking about this, which every time it came up in the Palestine 101 chapters, I was like, I honestly never imagined that it started at 2 to 3% of the population. That's just like, you're ridiculously outnumbered. Anyway, naturally, such a proposal did not see the light of day. It is an indication of the entitlement of the... Oh, okay, this is the same wording as before. I'm going to skip ahead a little because a lot of this was covered in what we already read. Today, the two-state solution refers to the diplomatic process of finding its roots in the 1970s, which called for the establishing a sovereign Palestinian state next to Israel. The first bilateral breakthrough in this process materialized in the, at the time, secret Oslo Accords, where Palestinians represented by the PLO and Israelis agreed upon a declaration of principles that would lead to creating the Palestinian Authority as an interim government that would supposedly pave the way for a final settlement. Like, bothers me that they're calling it a settlement. These accords were mostly a declaration of principles which did not contain any parameters for how such a state would even look. As a matter of fact, the word state with regards to Palestinians was never mentioned once. It was 2 years later in what is referred to as Oslo II, naming them like movies, taking place in the Egyptian city of Taba, that negotiations earnestly began. In these negotiations, more concrete parameters were discussed and the logistics as well as method for instating the Palestinian Authority on the ground. It's crazy how is not real just went from like, we're not actually doing it to we're doing it. Yeah. They're like posting videos of all the buildings they're bombing. Like, thank you for documenting your own war crimes, I guess. If Palestine does have their own state, they need weapons on a real army to and a real army to defend off Israel if a two-state solution were ever to be implemented. I mean, I guess that's already a moot point at this point. The name Palestine is mentioned in one of Shakespeare's plays. What? Oh, right, because it's like the Ottoman Empire. Needless to say, that state has failed to materialize, and the so-called peace process has been used as a cover to accelerate Israeli colonization in the West Bank, as well as to subsidize the occupation of Palestinians through the international community under the guise of state building. What this approach to a solution neglects is that Israel is not a normal state. It is a settler colony. We're not talking about two naturally occurring populations which have led to a land dispute. Israelis are descended from settlers that arrived from abroad with the goal of erecting an ethnocratic settler state in an area that was already home to the Palestinians. This approach is also inadequate to right historical wrongs, as it focuses on the pre-1967 borders as a starting point, which are in themselves a product of this colonization, not the root cause of it. It is thus preoccupied with finding solutions to symptoms rather than dare address the root cause, which is Zionist settler colonialism and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. What are they linking for root cause? Oh, yes, the introduction. What fucking military requests permission not to fire? They posted a video of showing how merciful and careful they are, where they showed a pilot asking for permission not to bomb a place since they saw children. That is not how things work in regular militaries that aren't fucking bombing civilians like they're fucking inanimate objects. Yeah. There's the photos that were circulating. I don't think this is unique to Gaza, but like in many other conflicts in the region, that they disguise bombs as if they're like canned food or toys. Like, so unsuspecting children will trigger them. Like, at that point, you're not even pretending to not commit war crimes anymore. You're like, I made this bomb to openly target children because it looks like a toy. What the fuck? I really wish more content creators could utilize their very big audience to try and educate them on what's happening instead of staying out of political stuff. Yeah. Because, so my thought process was very like, I'm coming off the assumption that a lot of people are like me, right? Like, maybe we have a basis, a certain amount of understanding. Maybe not everyone is already as decided as I was coming into this as well. Sure, whatever. By even just sitting in chat for 10 minutes and like listening or reading through with us, you'll learn more than you did before. And you can do it with the total anonymity of like, even if you're here, as long as you don't say anything in chat, I don't know, right? Nobody has to know. You can very quietly learn alongside a community without being very public about it, which I think is a necessary sort of safety mechanism for some people to feel like they can indulge in a space like this. So that was part of what I was thinking. But obviously I'm not a massive content creator. I'm not gonna say that like 100 people is not a lot of people, but like in the scheme of like influencers and celebrity, like this is not a big stream, right? We're decently sized, but generally speaking, small stream. So the few times I've seen large content creators and celebrities really step up, not to say that they, owe it to us or whatever. I just think it would be nice. I just think it could make a difference if more people actually did something. Soviets did that in Afghanistan. It's not new, although still horrible. Yeah, exactly. It's not unique, like I said earlier, but just as bad. They're like-minded individuals. They're afraid Twitch or the cancel culture brigade comes for them, so they'd rather stay silent. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I hope this stream is testament to that not happening. I would hope that most content creators who are like me wouldn't want Zionists in their audience. But that's, on the foundation of like assuming they understand like what Zionism is, which is, arguably something it took me a while to learn as well. So like I want to, as an ally, like coddle people and give them the room and the safe space to get involved at their own pace. And at the same time, I recognize the urgency of the situation. And I do find it unforgivable that a lot of people don't see the urgency of the situation. So we do what we can. I think that's all we can do. Yeah. I think I'd like if content creators, once they're educated, could just show their support. They don't need to do the education, but saying they support Palestine or trans rights would be a good start. Yeah. Whatever the issue is, show your colors. No need to try and focus all attention on what you're doing for the cause. Yeah. I also think some content creators are worried about feeling like they're like capitalizing on a tragedy, right? Like, so for example, I was also a little hesitant. The reason I was pondering like how to do my donation stream for so long and I didn't do one in the end was because I was like, well, I don't want this to be like I'm encouraging people to sub to the channel because I'm going to donate to Palestine. Like, that's not the point, which is why I was, trying to be as clear as possible in my thread that I wrote on Twitter that, like, if you want to donate to the organizations I've selected or to any other organization that you've selected, just donate directly. Like, don't do it through my stream. Don't do it by subbing to me. Like, that's not the point. I'm just saying that I'm going to donate my usual proceeds and match them. That's it. I'm not trying to like encourage subs, donuts, whatever it is. So I think that's also a point of concern for people because cancel culture is so out of whack. So there's a lot of, it's complicated. There's a lot of opposing things that these content creators are thinking about. I want to be one more voice pushing everyone in the direction that I just think it would be really cool if people were more vocal. Stating that you're doing and also providing links for others to directly support. Yeah, no, exactly. I don't see anything wrong with doing that. We'll see. I didn't think Global Strike Week was such a huge ask. I understood that I couldn't step out of work, right? I'm admitting it. I mean, I wish I had the balls to, I'll say that. Wish I had the guts to roll up to my work Slack and be like, I am not working this week because I'm on strike to support Palestine. Like, I wish I had those balls. I don't, though. I just don't. I'm a filthy capitalist. So I didn't. Sapporo was yowling in the other room. She was really upset. But I did sit down and think about what I can do. Because the strike didn't only ask us to not show up to work. It also asked a lot of other things, right? It asked us to do a global boycott too. So I looked at the list of things and I was like, okay, these two things I can do. One is the no buy week. I can spend a whole week not buying anything. We can do that. Number two, I can do a social media focus for Palestine. Like, I can invest this week in like trying to limit my interactions, my retweets, my posts to Palestine related topics. I can do that. So like, these are the things I can do, even though I got no balls to not go to work. I keep saying this phrase, but the only thing we can do is like the extent of what we can do is good. I can't say it's good enough, but it's better than nothing. What icks me the most is that Israeli and Zionists are using anti-Semitism as a shield towards any criticism towards it. Yeah, when thousands of Jewish people around the world are protesting against Israel. Literal Holocaust survivors are like, this shit's a genocide. We're not doing that again. But no, they'll just be like, those are paid actors. Or they'll be like, you're cherry picking testimonials. Like, okay. Like, clearly I'm not gonna argue with the Zionists. I'm done. There is no point in arguing with the Zionists. Either they will open their eyes of their own accord or they won't. Like, you arguing with a rock is not gonna get you anywhere. I've been on strike for the last 8 months for Palestine. From work 3. It's a very fine line to make. You're not making it about you, which I think some CCs worry about. Yeah, precisely, Rin. That's a good way to put it. CCs like to kick the bee's nest and shamelessly ask people to go to their live stream to debate them. That's true. Some CCs benefit from stirring the pot. Even Holocaust historians are calling it a genocide. That's truly not a point that is debatable anymore. Just from the facts. Doing the education is really hard because it's so easy to say something that people misunderstand. So I don't really mind if CCs don't want to create that possibility on their platform, but definitely like if they showed support after educating themselves in their own time. Yeah, like the only reason I was comfortable selecting this resource for us to read through together was because I had seen so many like Palestinians recommend it. So I was like, it feels like a credible source at this point just because I constantly see it being recommended by people. So, did you see the girl who accidentally called this a genocide even though... Yeah, I was actually thinking about that clip earlier when we were talking. Who was it? Somebody retweeted it and was like, that's quite the Freudian slip. She was like, I think her quote was like, it's sick that people bring up the Holocaust when they talk about this. Like, don't use other genocides to describe this one. And then she was like, holy fucking shit. Yeah. There's no point arguing with someone who doesn't want to change their mind. Exactly. Like, people have to be approaching the conversation in good faith. I honestly don't think I've ever seen a Zionist approach these conversations in good faith. So, I mean, who knows? There are Zionists who've come around, former Zionists who've come around, and they've like written threads about their conversion process, for lack of a better term. But it's certainly rare, and I think the main takeaway from most of those threads is that it's fucking hard. Yeah. You were watching it right before the stream. Leftist Israelis protesting inside Israel are very brave and have been protesting basically since October 7th, like immediately afterwards. That is brave. Because the Israeli government is not shy about their silencing of people. Literally the TikTok meme where you stutter and go, no, I mean in the sense that... I don't know this TikTok meme. Am I old? Zionism is what got us here, but it's a hard thing to really fight against. I have to go back to work, but I'm going to leave the stream on lurk so that number goes up. No, do not feel obligated to do that, but I appreciate that ego. I think let's try to do one more myth. Personally, I want to know about the watermelons, but we can come back to the apartheid state we're hoping maybe one more stream, maybe, fingers crossed, because I do want to read more of the history. So let's do the watermelon one and then call it. I'm hungry too, and I gotta go have my second dinner. I don't know if I ever told you guys this, but in recent months, for some reason, like streaming has started to make me very hungry. So also partially because I have dinner earlier now because I've moved my streams earlier. So I'll have dinner at like 5:30, sometimes as early as 5, if I can get off work early enough. And then I start stream as early as I can, usually around 7. So maybe as a result, I just get hungry again. And then like streaming is so high energy, high intensity that like around 11 p.m. usually, what time is it? It's basically 11 p.m. I feel the hunger pangs. I'm like, time for dinner number 2. And then I scavenge the fridge for like girl dinner. I don't call it girl dinner, I call it rat dinner because it's always like either like my roommate's leftovers or like cheese that no one's touched for like a month, but it's not moldy, so I must be able to eat it. Or like salami that I forgot was in the fridge. Is rat dinner. I call it rat dinner. Oh, I did mention second dinner before. Okay. Just to out myself. Hi, Sephora. If you come here, you can say hi to chat. Right here. She's like, you've been streaming enough. Attention to me now. People are dying in Gaza and you're gonna meow at me. That was a joke in poor taste, but I still wanted to make it. Okay, she left. She got it. It worked. It worked. Okay, Palestinians use watermelons during the first intifada. I know, she's so screamy. I didn't know that she was a loud meower like for a cat until I met my friends' other cats, and when they meow, it's like much softer. I was like, oh, Sapporo yells. I didn't realize. Okay. I was always opposed to the Israeli government's own actions. That is actually fair. I think I would share that perspective, Victor Ryan. All right, here we go. Ready? One of the main reasons for launching Decolonize Palestine was to challenge the bevy of pro-Israel myths permeating discussions on Palestine. There are many reasons why we chose to focus specifically on pro-Israel myths. Chief among them is that they are simply much more widespread in mainstream discourse and have come to be internalized as conventional wisdom by many. Another reason is that, relatively speaking, the Palestinian and Arab narrative of the Palestinian question is much closer to reality than the Zionist one. So, for instance, the Palestinians never had to invent myths to justify why they were more deserving of the land. They have simply always been there. Oh! I just spilled the rest of my drinks, but there's not much, so my crotch a little wet. Someone increment the spill count. I'm gonna grab paper towels. Be right back. Oh, there's not a lot. We're good. It's not that bad. Just kind of smells like alcohol. All right, sit my ass down on the damn chair. Oh shit, there's still more. There's still more. I just remembered the keyboard. Oh yeah, I spilled tea on the keyboard. Oh, it was off stream. Oh, I've also done that on stream, but it's happened off stream before too. That was the worst one. That one I really had to like unplug the keyboard, invert it for a week. Anyway, it wasn't beer. It was this. Okay. What were we on? The Palestinians never had to invent myths to justify why they were more deserving of the land. They have simply always been there. Consequently, they had little reason to come up with intricate mythology full of fraudulent talking points, legitimizing, erasing other people. Indeed, every year more research emerges as more Israeli archives are declassified. Israeli media discovers what the Palestinians had been saying for decades. Palestinian claims of forced labor and internment camps during the Nakba, for example, have long been dismissed as wartime propaganda. However, recent research shows that these camps were very real, and newly discovered ICRC reports from the time describe the situation of Palestinians interned there as slavery. This is news to me. I didn't know that there were forced labor camps during the Nakba. Their only claim to the land is God and the Bible. If you spill beer, I'm going to think you're drunk. But I do it so often, we have a calendar for it. I usually spill tea. Did you all have... I didn't have wine. This was not wine. This is technically... Hold on. I actually don't know what alcohol it is. Oh, you know, they don't specify. That's a little... concerning. It just says filtered water, alcohol from corn sugar, cane sugar, lemon juice, yuzu extract. That's the full ingredients list. So it just says alcohol. All right. Hopefully not methanol. I'm going to be honest, when I read the name of the website, I was kind of worried it would be unfairly biased, but it seems to have very good points, though I'll also cross it with other stuff just to make sure. Yeah, I like that urge, Aurora. I appreciate that. You had iced mint tea. That sounds very pleasant. Ethanol. Don't worry. True. I forgot what stream it was, but you did have fun one night. Oh no, there have been multiple streams where I was like foolishly drunk. That's happened multiple times. At least 3. I mean, all the VODs are backed up. We've never missed one since... I think 3 months into the stream time is when I started backing everything up. So, all right, here we go. This is where we stopped. This is not to say that Palestinians are immune to myths or propaganda, while Israelis are not. Rather, it is to say that the question of power is a vital one that must be kept in mind. For example, Christian Zionists in the United States are convinced that for Armageddon to happen, Israel must be strong and stable. That is, before the second coming, and its Jewish population is forced to convert or die. They form one of the strongest pro-Israel voting blocs in the United States, especially in the Republican Party. They have the numbers, resources, and dogma to act on whatever beliefs they have. Through lobbying and other activities, they work tirelessly to make sure that Israel is strongly supported by the United States, no matter what it does. This is one of the most, like... I mean, it's not that surprising, I guess, but it is very disappointing to see our so-called... liberal wing of our governing body supporting Israel. So that statement right there is another part of the reason people are so pro-Israel. Yeah. An Israeli settler can look at any piece of land in the West Bank and claim, based on nothing, that it was the site of some ancient presence. Based on nothing? What is it? Oh, okay. Based on nothing links to facts on the ground, archaeological practice, and territorial self-fashioning in Israeli society. I'm adding this one to the list too. Okay. They can then simply gather a group of like-minded individuals and erect an outpost, effectively colonizing the land with the automatic support and protection of the IDF. What was I saying earlier about what, like, what's real and what isn't real is largely determined based on, like, perceived legitimacy? And then we were like, oh, it's funny to ask if, like, is Israel real? Isn't real. Anyways, this is simply not the case for Palestinians. It's literally like we're just gonna gaslight everyone. Like, if we get enough people to say that this is real, then it is real. With this distinction in mind, let's take a look at a curious phenomenon that has recently emerged in Palestinian social media: the watermelon. Is Israel real or just cake? Personally, I'm not surprised, but I know or hope it'll radicalize people. I have a very similar hope. And yet, look at motherfucking Joe Biden. Woo-wee! Never! I didn't think that, like, I don't know, like, my bar for white men in politics is just, especially old white men in politics, is so low. And somehow he, like, continues to disappoint. Anyway, forbidden fruit. As a result of social media platforms such as Facebook censoring Palestinian content, including the Palestinian flag, images of watermelon slices have become ubiquitous in pro-Palestine circles. This harkens back to Israel banning anything Palestinian that could be interpreted as making a political statement or displaying nationalistic imagery, including the Palestinian flag. Johan, what's up? Right back at you. I will say I wasn't super sure how I was, like, I knew I wanted to do the social media, like, Palestine blackout in some way. I didn't really know what it was going to look like. And then I saw your page doing it. And I was like, that's a great role model. So thank you, Johan, for being one of my spurs to action. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for lurking and listening along. Am I an idiot? I literally only consciously realized Israel is pronounced Israel and not Israel. I mean, I feel like in the Christmas, what is it called? The Christmas, carols. Don't they say Israel? Like, they sing it like that. So you don't mess with the Johan. So true. So fucking true. Okay. Thank you, Johan, for joining us also. It's always good to have you. The adopters of the watermelon claim that after Israel banned the colors of the Palestinian flag, Palestinians resorted to displaying slices of watermelon instead as they mimicked the colors of the flag. This method for bypassing Israeli censors allegedly prospered during the first Intifada, where it became a widespread practice. While the intentions of this adoption are admirable, there is very little evidence to suggest such a practice took place, especially during the first Intifada. We suspect that this belief arose from a misunderstanding stemming from this interview with Sliman Mansour. Probably not saying that right. I would take a sip, but I spilled it. The prominent Palestinian... Here, I'll sip my tea. Cheers. The prominent Palestinian artist. Mansour and his fellow artist exhibition was shut down due to its political nature. Not only was the Palestinian flag not allowed, but anything mimicking its colors were also totally banned. So one of the artists asked, what if I were to make a flower of red, green, black, and white? To which the soldier replied, it will be confiscated. Even if you paint a watermelon, it will be confiscated. Yeah, I think Israel is the more American way to say it. That is true. Is fantasy. I saw some artists on Twitter drawing fan art with characters eating watermelons as a subtle way to show their support. Yeah. I think the watermelon symbol has really taken over. That's been my observation, at least in this week where I've more intentionally tried to immerse myself in the topic, for sure. Mansour himself does not recollect. I think they're both correct. Any artist using the watermelon in their art as a political statement. It was all as hypothetical as the aforementioned flower his colleague asked about. There is no mention at all of this practice in the literature of the First Intifada. There are references to people using the watermelon as an example of the banned color combination, which we are not disputing, but none of the widespread use of the watermelon slices as a political statement or as a substitute for the Palestinian flag. It is just now sinking into me why they spent like multiple paragraphs talking about why they're even talking about this myth. Right? Because the first like 5 paragraphs are basically going like we're mostly trying to debunk like pro-Israeli myths, but like here is a myth that is I mean, you could argue it's not really like pro-Palestine, it's just like a harmless myth, but here is a myth about Palestine, I guess, that is not negative and not pro-Israeli, and we're here to debunk it. And like, here's why we usually don't do this. It's like they spent like 8 paragraphs basically explaining that. It didn't sink in until now that it's because the watermelon myth was, I guess, pro-Palestine is the closest way I can phrase that. Biku, thank you for the stretch and hydrate. I'm gonna actually steep my tea because I'm out. Worldwide is such a symbol to show support without getting suppressed. Yeah. Any kind of a government that would be interested in censoring such comments. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Why would they censor a watermelon? It's just a watermelon slice. Really makes you think. Anyway, let's stretch while we keep reading. Yeah! Watermelons in chat. Let's go. I see it on TikTok a lot, for sure. I had to quit TikTok for my own mental health, but it's reassuring to hear that. Okay, there is one singular New York Times story from 1993 that mentions watermelon slices. Quote, in the Gaza Strip, where young men were once arrested for carrying sliced watermelons, thus displaying the red, black, and green Palestinian colors, soldiers stand by, blasé, as processions march by waving the once banned flag. I love the watermelon spam. This detail was later retracted due to insufficient evidence of this ever happening. You will notice that most stories covering the watermelon phenomenon today link back to this same article. Of course, Israel has been known to arrest Palestinians for the flimsiest of pretexts, so this is not entirely outside the realm of possibility. However, there is little to suggest it was a widespread practice. Additionally, we reached out to several members who were active in the popular communities of the Intifada regarding this issue. None of them could recollect anyone ever using watermelons as symbols of resistance. Naturally, we're open to any kind of correction. If there's some mention in literature we missed or a reliable documented source, we are happy to update the article as necessary. However, if this article is widespread as claimed, it wouldn't need to be searching this deeply. We wouldn't need to be searching this deeply for a mention of it in both Arabic and English sources. Oh, this is an interesting section. Okay, let's talk about why it's important to debunk something like this. Are you done? Can you guys hear her? Oh, Victor Ryan, I got you. Yeah, the baby is screaming. Bro, why are you so loud? You're like the loudest cat I've ever met. Come here. If you're gonna be so whiny, come here. Then chat can see you. I can give you pats here. She just keeps going. There is one thing I've been trying to teach her, which is that if she meows incessantly like this, I will pick her up. So let me see if I can grab her. Wish me luck. I'm gonna cover my arms so I don't get fucking destroyed. Let me see if I can pick her up and show her to you as punishment. She hates being picked up. Sapporo, you're gonna hate this. Oh! She got me, she ran away. Yeah, no, she hates being picked up. She absolutely hates it. Now she has something I call the emo yowl, which sounds, I wish I could record it for you, but I don't think she's too far away for you to hear that. It's like, that's my best imitation. Like it goes into her throat. She didn't swipe at me, she just ran. Yeah. But I've been trying to condition her so that when she does this incessant meowing thing, I try to pick her up. And it's number one, to get her more used to getting picked up, but number two, also to discourage the yowling. Anyway, she's doing her emo yowl outside right now. Emo yowl is a good word. Okay, let's talk about why it's important, why symbols and symbolism and their origins are important. Revolutionary movements tend to produce revolutionary iconography. These symbols can take a wide variety of forms, ranging from art to even the revolutionaries themselves becoming immortalized. However, there is also a danger inherent to the adoption of symbols, or rather, what or who is chosen to be turned into a symbol. This is a more like academic term, but I like it. It goes without saying that adopting a symbol based on a myth leaves it open to attacks from Hasbara, I'm not familiar with this term, organizations and other pro-Israel groups. I'm gonna Google that really quick, 1 second. Hasbara roughly means explaining. How Israel uses Hasbara to whitewash its crimes. It's a propaganda machine. It's a primary messaging tool. Public diplomacy technique, which links information warfare with the strategic objectives of the Israeli state. Okay, so loosely translated to propaganda. Open to attacks from Hezbollah organizations and other pro-Israel groups. The go-to tactic of these groups is to cling to any factual inaccuracies, no matter how minuscule, in an attempt to discredit the entire movement. You need only browse a website like NGO Monitor to find a mountain of examples of sentences broken down, taken out of context, and twisted beyond recognition to frame them as anti-Semitic. Nevertheless, Palestinian content will be attacked regardless of how factual it is, with the legions of Nakba deniers attesting to this fact. Fear of defamation from pro-Israel advocates is not the main concern here, but rather something a bit more complicated that the pro-Palestine movement needs to reckon with. I girded my loins and let out a great emo yowl. I was ready for the great raw dogging. This is like the worst artifact from this stream. It's like, oh, you did a Palestinian history education stream. Like, give me a quote. And then imagine if the quote I gave you was, quote, C1 Shinobi said, I girded my loins and let out a great emo yowl. I was ready for the great raw dogging. They weaponized the actually forum debaters. Yes, exactly. Okay, the adoption of something or someone as a symbol can often be the quickest way to diffuse it and empty it of its radical significance. Take the revolutionary legacy of Nelson Mandela, for example. Upon his death, Western media rushed to call him a, quote, man of peace, describing how his principled nonviolence paved the way for the fall of apartheid South Africa. What was conspicuously missing from these obituaries is the fact that Nelson Mandela underwent military training, established the military wing of the ANC, and planned attacks against the apartheid government. What was also missing is the fact that at the time, these newspapers called him a terrorist and published opinion pieces on why apartheid had nuances and how equal voting rights was, quote, a recipe for slaughter. The revolution is taken out of the revolutionary, and they become a harmless icon, divorced from their radical politics and actions. They are declawed, and a distorted, tame version of their life is propagated and celebrated by the very forces they dedicated their lives to fighting. Unfortunately, such an occurrence is not unique to our present day, as Lenin so succinctly wrote more than a century ago. I didn't think we were going to be quoting Lenin in this, but that's fun. I'm down. Let's go. Quote, during the lifetime of great revolutionaries, the oppressing classes constantly hounded them, received their theories with the most savage malice, the most furious hatred, and the most unscrupulous campaigns of lies and slander. After their deaths, attempts are made to convert them into harmless icons, to canonize them, so to say, and to hallow their names to a certain extent for the, quote, consolation of the oppressed classes and with the object of duping the latter, while at the same time robbing the revolutionary theory of its substance, blunting its revolutionary edge, and vulgarizing it. I should read more Lenin. That was fire. By the way, USA chatters, this is extremely prominent in our media, something we need to keep an eye out for because we deal with two kinds. Oh, like the sort of like declawing of by like elevating someone to a symbol to declaw them at the same time. That's fair. Oh, here we go. MLK. Another pertinent example is Martin Luther King, whose real radical policies are glossed over, morphing into a caricature upon which any stance or position can be projected. At the end of the day, distorted and misquoted tidbits from his long struggle amount to, quote, MLK wouldn't want you to make me uncomfortable. That is quite clearly the complete antithesis of MLK's increasingly radical politics, which posed such a threat to the US empire that he was assassinated. Yeah, the declawing and the vilifying, definitely. As you might have surmised, this is no longer about mere watermelons, but a growing trend in Palestine advocacy. As the struggle for Palestinian rights becomes more mainstream, it will undoubtedly attract a more diverse range of supporters, not all of who necessarily share the same radical politics that birthed the Palestinian Revolution. This for me is echoing back immediately to like the BLM movement and all the discussions we had to have around abolition. And how closely it's tied to like the police state, what ACAB means, like definitely there were so many pulls towards the center in those conversations, right? Suddenly being involved in some aspects of Palestine solidarity does not mean the automatic end to your career that it used to. In this context, reformists will emerge, that is, those who strive for inclusion in imperialist systems rather than their dismantlement, and who believe that if they moderate the Palestinian call for freedom enough, they can still climb, both socially and professionally. That line seems to heavily suggest that the US government assassinated MLK. Yeah, but it's just an implication. They didn't actually say that. But also, I would argue there's plenty of reason to believe that might be the case. That's a conversation for another time. We're gonna need a few more documents declassified. It's like the worst version of poetry. This rhymes with what happened in the US. Yeah, precisely. There is a reason why the myth of the watermelon gained so much momentum without even the most basic fact checking, because it's respectable. It's safe, it's easy, it's convenient. Why do you think the originators of the symbol chose the first intifada as its supposed genesis? Because it considered the good intifada, the unarmed one, the peaceful one, the mythical and ideal version of Palestinians, the one you can support without that larger risk to your career or social standing in the West. This is naturally contrasted with the second intifada, the bad one, the armed one. That's an interesting point. That is very, very interesting. I hadn't considered this aspect of the symbol at all. I really appreciate these authors, like the two people who run this website, going to this level of analysis. I'm sorry I called it academic. I mean, it kind of is, but like, I mean it positively. There's a recent trend in Palestinian solidarity circles to turn the Palestinian into the perfect victim. Perhaps this is done in an effort to draw more sympathy for Palestinians, but it has, at times unintentionally, created a mythic, sanitized, meek version of Palestinians who would rather wave watermelons at their tormentors instead of picking up a rifle to resist their colonization. This is what makes Hamas so hard to talk about to people who haven't done the necessary reading, right? Because they're like, well, like Hamas did violence, so they're bad. Like, I don't support any violence. So Hamas is bad, right? Let me drop the website again. It is also pinned in chat if you need it, but this particular link is the watermelons myth. Yeah. There are so many layers to this, and it is fascinating. I do agree. Yeah. We all need to have history with Ying now, but I'm shit at history. So history with Ying would just be me reading like other people's work to you. First I got hummus instead of Hamas. I mean, I don't really know how to pronounce it, so I guess maybe I might have accidentally said hummus. I don't know, whatever. I'm probably never gonna get that quite right. But yeah, it's I think thinking about how we discourse on Hamas drives this particular point home. That like the fight for liberation, I think in many contexts, like because the histories we've been taught around MLK, around Nelson Mandela, right? Like they've defanged these revolutionaries for us. And so the versions of the histories that we've been taught about these revolutionaries is so non-violent. They're like, oh, these were our peace, the man of peace. They would never raise a hand against anyone. They would just stand there and like be beaten. And sure, like espousing peace was like part of it also, but it is also undeniable that these two people in particular were quite militant. And we just literally weren't taught that. They just like whitewashed that shit out of the history. So many of us, not all of us, but probably many of us have been raised on this myth that like the true revolutionary is one who would like never be violent or never turn to violence. So it's why I love to learn. I know, I agree. Malcolm X is so special because of this. I agree. Comparing the two intifadas are like comparing MLK versus Malcolm X. Yes, I like that. History is sanitized by the oppressors and they need people to believe that words were enough when no. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think this is a very resonant point. I didn't expect, when I clicked on the watermelon myth page, I didn't think this was the very multi-layered deep point actually that we were going to get to. And I feel like it's very relevant. I don't know. This is a hard thing to talk about just because it's, you know, to get this many layers deep, you have to have had someone's captive attention for a while, which this website has had for us. But in your casual conversation on fucking Twitter, like not everyone's going to have this level of context, but that's really important actually. This stream made me want to educate myself so much more because I've realized educating myself about Palestine is also educating myself more generally about revolution and colonization. That is such a good point. That it's not just about Palestine, right? Like this is a story that we've seen play out again and again in human history across multiple ethnicities, civilizations, periods of history. This is part of a larger narrative. sure, we're like, focused on this particular instance of it right now, and that's important to remember as well, but like it's part of a larger context. I like phrasing it that way, Dragon Moon Wolf. I really like that. I'm gonna borrow that thought. And I'm glad that it gave you that push too. I'm with you there in solidarity. There's a reason why I focus on the nitty-gritty of history, because it was more impactful than just the glossy version. Like, give me the facts. Give me the real stuff. That's true. What's Wretched of the Earth, Kwaniko? It goes into even the perspectives we have in regards to past wars, because we have such a perspective that isn't the whole point of why we should never do it again. Yeah. Like, we've literally been miseducated on a lot of things. Like, it's like, oh, well, they just left out a few details. But like, those few details made a big difference in the way we think about these conflicts. So, I don't know. I think part of, I guess I would call it radicalization, but part of radicalization is sort of knowing that you were fed lies for a long time. To be clear, we are not saying that anyone using the symbol subscribes to the views described above. Neither are we saying that this cannot be an effective part of resistance and awareness spreading. Our fear is that symbolic gestures alone will come to dominate the Palestine solidarity movement to the detriment of Palestinians on the ground. Unfortunately, we could already see vestiges of such politics during the last Israeli onslaught on the Gaza Strip. People were full-heartedly supportive of the Palestinians of Jerusalem as they resisted the eviction of their homes in Sheikh Jarrah. Do I have anything left to say? I actually do. I can sip this. With what little was available to them, the moment the Palestinians in Gaza chose to support them militarily, however, the tune changed. This is very true. Suddenly, many pundits and allies started wagging their fingers, talking about it not being the time or the way to resist Israeli colonialism, despite the action being overwhelmingly supported by the very Palestinians on the ground in Jerusalem they claim to champion. Honestly, the ultimate hypocrisy here for me as an American is that for an American to say something like that, I'm like, do you not remember the founding of our own nation being a story of revolution? Like, we fought a war. We claimed the right to bear arms. Like, what the fuck is this talking point? Like, are you fucking kidding me? How dare you fight back when you're getting beaten? Yeah, for real. Like, if I punched you right now, what would you do? Would you stand there and take it? I don't think so. What is it? Newton's first law is you punch me, I punch you, motherfucker. Same shit applies here. Anyway, Steven Saleda wrote this excellent article on this kind of conditional support. Quote, watch how your favorite pundit reacts when Palestinians take up armed struggle or consort with actors beyond the U.S. sphere of influence. Does the pundit drop the crowd-pleasing slogans and start yammering about strategic errors and moral failures among the resistance? Does the pundit exhibit a sudden compulsion to nuance? Does the pundit begin ruminating about how this or that U.S. enemy is actually worse than Israel? Those are your tells. Great point. So much of this is just like dog whistling, right? Like, they're not saying it outright. And so sometimes when people try to call these people on that behavior, other people will rush to their defense. Like, well, they didn't say anything that was explicitly pro-Zionist. But also, like, I mean, if you're going to sit there and like not denounce a genocide, I feel like that's that. That's kind of it. I don't really want to talk about anything else at that point. I already know where you stand. Nobody said this when Ukraine resisted Russian invasion. Let's go! Wretched of the Earth is an analysis of colonization France fanon that a lot of people laud as like foundational text after imperialism by Lenin. Oh, I'm gonna look it up. Thank you for that. So many things. I will probably not get to all of them, but I want to. Fanon? Is that how you would say it? We do a lot of fucking around and finding out, but we never learn from it. It's not doing it. Yeah, I know. It's so fucking real. Like, sometimes dodging certain talking points is a dog whistle. Okay, once again, we are not saying anyone using the watermelon or propagating the myth practices these politics intentionally or otherwise. Rather, it is our concern that its ahistorical prominence represents the latest attempt at respectability politics within Palestine solidarity circles. It can have its uses, but the attempts of its originators to claim it as some antifada political tradition is perhaps misguided at best and malicious at worst. Unlike Israelis, we do not need to exaggerate or conjure historical events from thin air. As always, the truth is on our side. And then citations. That was a much deeper read than I thought I was signing up for. I'm gonna be honest, but that is a fantastic note to end the stream on. So thank you guys for sticking around for it. I know that was dense reading material, and I wasn't sure if we were gonna be able to get through a lot of it, but we got through more than I expected. It was 2 whole chapters for the introduction, and then like 2 myth pages. So that's it's a lot. So I have been I'm not surprised because I knew we had a good community here, but I'm very pleasantly, I don't know, surprise is not the word. I don't know what word I'm looking for here. I'm just happy. I'm just happy that we were able to have like a productive discussion. We didn't have a single person come in here to troll. It was all really respectful. We, kept things light without being disrespectful. I don't know. I just thought that went a lot better than I am always like, I'm the kind of person who I don't consider myself an optimist, but I prepare for the worst and I hope for the best is always like, that's my MO. I very much approach this stream from that perspective. And I feel like y'all like super, not to get super corporate on you, but like you exceeded my expectations. So I want to give you all a shout out for doing that so well. It's not easy. Like, I think that's the point I want to say is like, it wasn't like an obvious thing that everyone would have been able to engage with this at this level of like nuance and delicacy and, with the gentle, careful touch that it requires. But I feel like everyone was very mindful, and that's not easy. So kudos to you all for keeping up with that. You want disrespectful? Here's one for the night. You spilled good tea. I did not spill tea. I spilled alcohol. Doesn't make me look better. Makes me look worse. But we gotta stick to the facts. Some of you like pineapple on pizza. You did not exceed my expectations. Otsukare, thank you, Totori. Otsukare to you all as well. Yeah, no, that's why we have a clumsy redeem, right? Prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Most relatable thing. It really is. I think it's a good way. For me, it's been a very good way to live. I think hoping for the best, but expecting the worst has made me minimally disappointed and frequently pleasantly surprised. So I feel like as a whole, it makes me a happier person. And I like that. I'm happy about that. Okay, let me see. I'm thinking about who to raid. I think we raid. Let's raid Dr. VTuber Saikin MD. I don't think I've raided Saikin before. For those of you who have not joined us previously for it, Saikin was one of our guests alongside Totori and also Meow for a death cafe that we run on stream, which if you're not familiar, it's like a conversation where you talk about death. And so we were talking about like advanced directives and like living wills a little bit, but like basically like if you were to be put on life support and you couldn't speak for yourself, what would you want done medically for you? Those kinds of conversations. So that was really great. If you want to go find the VOD, it should still be up. I think it was recent enough. But yeah, please go say hi to Saikin for me. Very depraved human being, but also like good man. You can be both. This is your daily reminder that if you don't have a will, make one. So true. Yes, even if it's unofficial, it's better than nothing. At least your loved ones will have something to consult. Okay. With that, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, have a wonderful time of day. Free Palestine. Let's keep learning. I'm glad we started on such a good high note today. I'll try to do one more stream. And again, all of your tips, donos, my usual Twitch revenues will be matched and then donated for pro-Palestine causes. So, well, more on my Twitter. Okay, I'll see you guys over the weekend. Have a good one. Bye-bye.